What's up, everybody? Welcome to Journey to Avengers Infinity War. Want to give a big shout out to all the Hyper Homies hanging out. New coin name that we figured out.
Yep,
That's gonna be the new name.
term for
also,
the
you got to do your thing.
Which one?
There you go.
That's the official intro to all our shows now.
The grito.
It's a modified grito that you use only when there's mariachi present in certain phrases.
I feel like
of
we need
music.
to explain to JJ. It's a Mexican thing.
That's how you do it. Just very hype.
We have to introduce our wonderful guests joining us today on this journey. We have got April Dawn, Jay Washington. Say hi, guys.
Hi.
Thank you guys so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So it's a Saturday morning and I'm up to do this. So literally, let's make this happen.
We're going to make it happen.
We hit them up. We're like, you guys want to come talk about the MCU for 2 hours? And they're both experts. And they were like, yes, that sounds fun.
I wore a Marvel shirt specifically for this.
Exactly. I'm not. I'm bored.
I wore my Infinity chanclas for this one. So put those on screen. There you go. Infinity
Look at those things.
Boom, boom, boom.
Beat your ass with them.
Yeah.
Adam, any other housekeeping?
In case shit gets
I
rowdy.
just want to give a shout out to everybody who's watching. Thank you guys so much for joining us. If you're watching this in the rebroadcast later, thank you so much for checking this out. We're gonna have a lot of fun today. We're gonna be recapping and talking about the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe, everything from Iron Man all the way up to Black Panther and beyond. We're gonna speculate a little bit. There's two things that you guys can do. We just rebooted our Patreon, patreon.com/hyperrpg. We're gonna be giving early access to a lot of YouTube videos and live streams. This is probably going to be one of the last live streams we do outside of Patreon. Everything else is going to be moving to Patreon. That doesn't mean that all the content won't be available, but Patreon will get everything exclusively first. So if you guys want to go on there, check out, we have brand new tiers. We've got a lot of cool new goals. We're only $200 away from our $1,500 goal, which unlocks Hyper Heroes live every single Thursday night at 9:30. We're super, super close. Thank you guys who've been jumping on that. We've jumped about like 50 to 60 patrons in the last week or two, so thank you guys so much for that. If you guys want to interact, you guys can do so in the chat room. There's a live chat room that I'll be going through and reading a bunch of questions. If you do decide to, he's already knocking stuff over. If you do decide to tip using Super Chat, your questions will kind of be put into a priority list, and we'll answer those first, and then any other questions after that as well.
Keep in mind, we only have 2 hours.
Yes. But you guys are welcome to speculate just as much as we are, and to throw in any comments about any of these movies or anything that we might potentially miss. And if you are watching via Patreon, I'll be going through those comments as well, and looking at what you guys have to say too.
Yeah.
Without further ado,
We get it going?
Hector.
We have to get this thing started, and I'm going to need the man, Agustin Rios, to come over and explain this board.
So,
and then we'll get it started. What do we got?
So, one thing that's very important that we cannot forget is the short Team Thor.
Yes.
Team Thor was dope, but he asked a very important question. Who is this purple man? Why is he sitting down? What is this in his hand? We don't know. What we do know is that he is purple, he has a magic glove, and he doesn't like standing. And also, I had to draw Mjolnir on here because Mjolnir is freaking dope. But as silly as that is, he asked a very important question that we don't know anything about yet, and I feel like this whole thing's going to tie in. Thanos. What is all this going to lead to? How have we gotten there? What is the road to get there? And what is going to happen after? And I feel like we're going to kind of try to answer that a little bit here. So we have a giant kind of
Here we go.
thing that we're doing here. Let me go over this way.
Hi.
So,
Okay, guys.
We're about to unveil.
Let's get it started. Let's get the
Everything.
Marvel
Yeah,
Cinematic
yeah,
Universe.
yeah.
Are you guys ready? April, you ready?
I'm
Jay, you ready?
nervous.
Dun,
This
dun,
is
dun,
what we have to deal with.
Sweet Lord, baby,
dun,
Jesus.
So this is everything we're combing through.
These are most, not even all, of the characters.
Not even all, and then we still have a giant stack of
yeah,
characters here
Yeah.
that we
That's what
haven't
we're looking
gone
at.
through.
That's what we're looking
This
at.
is like 60 more characters here.
There's a
And now that are on the floor,
we have
Great.
there's a total of 200. I think it's 245 characters.
That sounds about right.
is
And
not
on
even
the
all of them.
board currently, there's about 180-ish.
Yeah.
And then the rest are on the floor. But we had to kind of prioritize, obviously, because there's so many godforsaken characters.
Go for it.
And we're going to do our best to sort of make sense of all this.
yeah.
All right, guys.
All right, Hector, I'm going to help you with that because those things
No,
are
I got
tough
it,
to
I got
break
it, I got
down.
it, I got
But the first one we're going to start with is, so we're going to go in movie order, not necessarily chronological order, because that starts with Malekith and Odin way back in the day.
Nobody cares.
So nobody cares because that's Thor: The Dark World.
Yeah, that's the movie we
And
don't wanna talk
here's
about.
the Malekith figure. We don't need that.
Okay, great.
So
Did you just get rid of that?
yep, it's on the floor over
That's
there.
great.
It's in the graveyard. So what we're gonna do also is put these characters in the graveyard or on the floor. Doesn't matter. We have little deceased markers on them
Thank you.
for dead people.
Augie, let's go through. Let's start at the beginning here.
Okay, so
We're talking-
movie.
We're talking.
We're talking Iron Man and Pepper Potts.
2008.
Uh-huh.
Adam, who's next on the list there? Who are the characters that are we
So,
introduced to in
from
Iron
Iron
Man?
Man, we've got obviously Tony Stark,
Yeah.
James
yeah.
Rhodes, aka
James
War Machine.
Rhodes, I saw him
Okay,
over here
okay.
somewhere.
Which roadie are we doing?
right.
We got
It's
both
Don
roadies?
Cheadle.
Oh, that's true. It's Don Cheadle. We're keeping with Don Cheadle for the sake of continuity.
I know.
We're doing
Yeah.
it's
How many magnets do you think we have?
enough magnets.
Hey man, people, out,
Listen, I had to use a magnet for
yeah,
Barit.
I put
So
Never mind.
Don
most
Cheadle
important
gets one and
characters up
Terrence
top.
Howard doesn't. We've also got, so the cast of Iron Man includes Iron Man, Tony Stark, James Rhodes, War Machine, Nick Fury, Pepper Potts, Jarvis, who eventually becomes
We don't have a
Vision.
Jarvis card.
Yes, we do.
We
Yes,
have a
do.
Vision
We
Jarvis
have a
card.
Vision. We have a
Where'd he
Vision
go?
card. Vision's up here somewhere.
Obadiah Stane.
Wait.
We do have an Obadiah Stane.
We
Yeah.
do have a stain.
I believe he's in the staff.
I think I got him.
Oh yeah,
Here's
yeah,
somewhere.
yeah. He's not.
Tony!
He's probably on the floor.
No, he's
actually.
right there. He's next to Tony. You've got,
The Vision, the Jarvis thing.
and then we're missing Happy Hogan,
Yeah.
Christine Everhart.
Okay, well, either way, for the sake of time, let's keep moving on.
Well, no, hang on. I'm gonna find these guys. Where did Vision go?
Vision's
Did you guys
up
see
there.
Vision?
I made
No.
a Vision card. I know I made a Vision card.
Oh man, this is gonna bug the
This
hell
is
out of me.
already falling apart, Hector.
Here we go. Here's Phil Coulson. Found
Yeah.
him. Okay, great.
I'm
This
glad
is-
we have very important Howard the Duck on here.
Yeah, me too.
That's very important.
Okay.
Movie one.
Do you
But,
have all three Groots? Because I see Team Groot.
We
There we
only
go.
have
There
one
we go.
Groot. There you go.
What we have, guys, just to clarify, we have like the most recent version of the character. So, for example, Jarvis is now Vision, basically. So
And
that's what
also-
we've got Tony Stark. I believe this picture's from Homecoming. We've got Phil Coulson. I believe this is from Agents of Shield season 4.
Yeah.
We've got obviously not the Terrence Howard, but the Don Cheadle.
The coldest dude on Twitter
Yeah,
right now who will
exactly.
check everybody's
Right,
life.
right.
All right.
Is this everyone from Iron Man 1? Adam, who are we missing? No, we got
Clearing
Abu
up the board
Bakar
just so
here.
that we know.
We've got Obadiah Stane. What are the characters?
Raza
Happy
and
Hogan?
Jensen.
Jensen.
Yinsen.
Oh yeah, Yinsen.
Yinsen.
I didn't make a magnet for him. He's in
That's
the
okay.
stack over there.
That's okay. And then Christine.
Tori Flacco
Everhart.
says Howard the Duck is Thanos. So there you go. Spoilers.
Now you know.
Damn
The
it.
truth has been revealed.
Damn it, Tori. She knows.
She knows all the secrets of the MCU.
While we're setting this up, guys, Jay and April, why don't we get some quick reflections on Iron
Right.
Man 1?
The film that kicked it all off. What a chance they took on Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, that first of all, Wes besides kicking it off, took a chance on Robert Downey Jr. and that kicked off his resurgence of his career. We didn't know what to expect. You know, you would see little bits and pieces in trailers, but when you saw the movie, again, when you saw Iron Man, you had no idea what was to follow.
No idea.
So it was just an Iron Man movie, and also Iron Man's an ancillary character who at the time nobody really cared about.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had cartoons, yeah, he had things like that, but nobody really focused on Tony Stark unless you were a diehard Iron Man fan, which was
Yeah.
very rare to hear about.
Yeah.
And so this movie introduced it, shows how he makes the arc reactors, shows how he makes the suits, which I love. That was the best part to me. You saw the step by step of making the Mark II.
Yep.
You know, of upgrading from the Mark I to the Mark II. And then watching Obadiah Stane turn on him, seeing Happy Hogan. I was hoping, you know, to see Terrence Howard at the time tease War Machine looking at the original Mark I like, next time, baby.
Yep.
You know, so for me, I still can revisit this movie.
Totally.
I still watch it, regardless of if Infinity War is coming out. I can still watch it.
Yeah, it's a super rewatchable movie, and I think you're right. This movie was such a huge risk for Marvel Studios, mostly because Robert Downey Jr. being one of those things, but also at the time, characters like Iron Man, Thor, even Captain America, as great as he is, those were very C-list characters. I knew of them by name. I didn't know their backstories. I think Captain America was the character I knew the most about, outside of like Spider-Man and some select X-Men. But yeah, it was really an impressive thing to go to this movie see what they had done and to realize that like this is Marvel Studios doing this. This is a comic book company who spun out a movie studio. Yes, these movies were being at the time distributed by Paramount, but I thought it was very impressive to see them sort of just like embrace this genre and just go all in. And Kevin Feige, in the very early days at Comic-Con in 2007, I think, talking about how hopefully one day we'll be able to lead into the Avengers and see where that spins off into. And now, 10 years, we're here talking about all 18 of these movies.
I feel like they already had it in mind. They were like, oh, no, we're doing Avengers. Yeah, like...
Oh, for sure.
Oh, yeah, we're doing
I think
Avengers.
it was only if Iron Man worked, though.
Well, yeah, of course.
Iron
It was
Man
still a
had to-
huge risk at that point.
Oh, yeah, it had to work. Like, Iron Man had to work, and then you go last minute, and we'll talk about it in a minute, and take that tie-in with Incredible Hulk. And you're like, wait, they really gonna do this?
Yeah.
They're really gonna do this?
Tori Flacco's asking, was Iron Man ever considered a big name in comics like Superman was, or was it really MCU that boosted the character? From my experience, I would say that he definitely wasn't as well known as Superman was in terms of sort of like his worldwide recognition. The MCU definitely boosted him.
Yeah.
If you were a Marvel Comics reader, you knew Iron Man because he was definitely a staple of the Marvel
And
universe.
I just watched this really cool sort of the animated Marvel MCU, not MCU, but like the animated version of it. And at that point, they were really focusing on the X-Men. So the golden children for Marvel at that point was the X-Men. They were focused on that. They were selling toys like crazy. Then they came up with that Marvel Power Hour. Do you guys remember that growing up in the 90s? Yeah. So they came up exactly. He had this glorious like freaking long hair
You see
and
him
like
in his forge
he was
making the suit.
forging
Yep.
like and then every time he hit the hammer in the intro, a new suit would pop up like behind him. Way cool. Wasn't well received. And then they came up with Fantastic Four. That one wasn't well received either. It eventually led to all the Spider-Man and everything like that. So basically, Marvel at that point was X-Men kind of falling off, the animated series kind of falling off, and Spider-Man still being remembered as like, this is what Marvel has, Spider-Man is like the best thing that they have. So we were in a weird point when these movies came out. We got to realize what a big risk it was for a movie studio to like say, hey, all you have to show us is comic books that aren't doing that well and failed animated series that aren't doing that well anymore. So this was huge.
Yeah.
Most important moments to take away from Iron Man that are relevant to Infinity War.
It's all about this guy right here. When he
Nick
shows
Fury.
up at the end. When he shows up at the end, it says, I want to talk to you about the Avenger Initiative. That was huge, and I still remember that moment in the theaters. I still remember, I still remember that moment when Nick Fury did that because it blew my mind as a comic book fan, and I had that hope of like, I know what's coming.
Yeah.
And I can't believe they're going to go for it and actually make it. But yeah. But now let's move on to Hulk. Is the next film we're talking about?
Yeah. Incredible Hulk.
Incredible Hulk is now introduced. Tony Stark is in a post-credit scene. Obadiah Stane dies in Iron Man 1. So we're going to put him over here in the graveyard. So poor Jeff Bridges is dead. That's where he goes.
Bye, buddy.
By the way, so we have deceased markers on them. This is deceased currently, like not in the progress,
Which
but
one
this
is
is
that one?
current. So this is Ultron.
Yeah, he's
Currently
gone.
deceased. Yeah.
He did.
You're right.
Yes,
Good job.
I'm glad I'm correct on this one.
He did, y'all.
So this was an interesting movie because this movie, Universal still has the rights to Incredible Hulk.
To this day.
They make the solo movies, which is why we haven't seen one yet, because they refuse to play ball with Marvel Studios. I know Mark Ruffalo is very frustrated by it. He's been very vocal about it. But this film had a different Incredible Hulk. This was Edward Norton coming in playing the role. The second actor cinematically to play it, the first being Eric Bana.
Don't ever mention that again. Don't do that.
This was I was actually pretty surprised by how much I liked this one because I did not like the Ang Lee Hulk at all.
Did you?
I think most people did not like it.
You know what? I liked it for what it was and the
Sure.
risk that they took on it,
Yeah.
just because it was different. I like how he kind of broke it up.
Sitting there having
No,
his
that was
secret-
bad.
Okay.
That was bad. I like what Ang Lee kind of tried to do with the comic book panels and like things panning over themselves.
Sure.
I thought that was cool. But looking back on it, I'm like, oh, this had no chance.
You're
at all.
like, thank
This had
God, thank God they did the Incredible
Yeah,
Hulk.
exactly.
It was great because for me it was a great stepping stone
Thank you.
for this character and to see a new version, a different iteration of this character and seeing, okay, even though it's a Marvel Studios movie, it's still very much a Universal solo movie, but they did a really good job of just really quickly just or easily tying it in with Tony Stark.
It's like a weird stepchild that
It
you
is.
don't really talk about. I mean, the only person you really talk about is Ross, who comes
here.
into Civil
Yep,
Thank you.
yep,
Who comes
yep.
into Civil War.
Yeah.
Well, you know, to see, because again, we didn't know what to expect. To see how the Hulk, I mean, we saw in trailers like, oh, is this gonna be? How's this gonna look? We didn't, you know, one of the biggest things with the Hulk for me is the transformation.
Yeah.
Like you want to see what the transformation looks like, and when the first time we see it after he's running through the factory,
Yeah.
and then you just see the body get
Scary.
big. It's terrifying.
It's like a
Yeah,
horror
yeah.
movie.
Yeah, one part goes like a horror because dude gets snatched up by his leg. It's just the roll.
Yeah.
And then there's the one part in that fight. If you listen very closely, you hear Hulk say, "Leave me alone."
Oh.
You have
Interesting.
when the smoke is there, you have to
Yeah.
listen very faint. He says, "Leave me alone."
Yeah.
At what point don't you leave a big ass monster alone? Like
You big and green, I'm out.
you know what, fam? I'm sorry, man. I have bad days. My wife been done, and I just took it out on you.
Yeah.
So what I'm gonna do?
Apologize.
Is go home, do some cocaine and alcohol, go to sleep.
That's what I ever said to you if we ever got in an altercation. I'm like, sorry, Jay, I'm just gonna go over here and chill out, put myself on timeout.
Liv Tyler as Betty Ross was great.
That's another good
That
thing,
was
yeah.
great.
Yeah.
I do feel cheated. I said this earlier. I do feel cheated off one thing in that film because they teased the leader.
Yeah.
When Samuel Stern's head started expanding, you were like, oh, but then again, we know now the whole Universal Marvel situation. So it's like, damn it, you left it. There's a door wide open for the leader. And
Yeah.
you can go into because of course with him having all the blood,
Yeah.
with all
Yeah.
the gamma radiated blood, that's how he makes all the different Hulks and things like that. Tim Roth as Abomination was dope. I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
But it was a great Abomination. Supposedly this is a conspiracy theory, fan theory, that you can see Spider-Man swinging by when they're fighting by the Apollo.
Interesting.
That's
No, that's.
but you know what I'm telling you? That's the fun, but I don't believe it.
There was also that actor from The Wire that people were like, oh, he's Luke Cage because they're in Harlem.
Yeah.
And Luke Cage hadn't been established in the world yet, but that also then proved to be not
correct.
correct.
Not so much.
Not correct.
Hector with the fact check.
Yeah.
Hector with the fact check, exactly. But
Hector's got all the
but
conspiracy theories.
Like
down,
April said,
though.
the big thing about the first Hulk movie was General Ross, who
Yes.
came into play later.
Yeah.
And people forget, Emil Blonsky's Abomination is still alive and is in the custody of Ross.
It's in the custody of
He's
Roy.
probably in the raft.
I would think he's in the raft. That's the
Okay.
only place he could be.
How do you keep a character like that in the raft, though?
You build a super thick, because he's basically the same thing as the Hulk.
Right.
But he's the Hulk and Captain America mix. Because remember, Blonsky got the super soldier serum first.
Yeah.
And that's what made him do what he could do, and then he got the Hulk's blood.
Yeah.
So, of course, Stark now knowing everything and understanding everything,
Yeah.
Stark, again, helped build the raft. So he probably made it where Abomination is probably way on the bottom floor of the
Yeah.
raft.
I guess one thing just to keep myself sane, I have to think that these characters, like the Hulk characters at least, are not as powerful as they're being presented in the comic book universe. Because there's no way in hell you could keep a character like Hulk or Abomination inside of any kind of container whatsoever. Like it's almost impossible. It has to be like some kind of cosmic, ethereal container made out of universe powers or something. Because
Made out of a
yeah,
gauntlet.
because the Hulk eventually gets to the point where
The angrier he gets, he's stronger
He
he
can
gets.
crack. He turns into World Breaker Hulk.
Yeah.
From World Breaker Hulk because he hits the Earth and cracks it in half.
Yeah.
So this is the type of power that they can get to. In the movies, though, we're not touching any of that. Like that's not.
We'll go later to Avengers when they tried to make the little glass case that was made for him.
Right.
Yeah.
you get Banner talking about some, hey man, what you thought they was gonna do?
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, I'll probably put a bullet
I
in my
have
head
to
for
bring
you.
my expectations down when it comes to the Hulk character.
David Durango is asking, will Abomination return? I think that's going to be hugely dependent upon Universal and whether or not they finally tell Marvel Studios, okay, let's collaborate, let's make a movie, let's bring back Emil Blonsky, let's bring back...
I would also love, though, if a future Avengers film opened with Emil Blonsky, a bunch of other bad guys, maybe Zemo, creating the Masters of Evil, just for the Avengers to knock them out and then moving on to something else. You know what I mean? Like,
Just
because
a
he's
quick
there.
one-off
Just a
movie.
quick one off. Now, we're moving on to Iron Man 2. Some key characters are introduced in Iron Man 2, namely Natasha Romanoff as Black Widow. We've got a couple of deaths here. We see at the beginning of the movie, Anton Vanko dies, so he's going to be in a little graveyard down here. Then later, his son, Ivan Vanko, Avant My Bird, a.k.a. Whiplash, dies.
Where's my bird?
What is my
And we
bird?
also get the
That is my
first
bird.
time this actor's playing Howard Stark, who we already know is dead, but we get that nice little flashback. And
John
Howard Stark,
Slattery, I
John
think.
Slattery becomes a pivotal character in the MCU.
Also, Gary
So-
Shandling.
Gary
Chandler plays Senator
Stern. That's
Senator
right.
Stern.
Here we go, Senator
do we have a
Stern.
magnet for him?
Politics.
Okay,
Yeah, we got a magnet for Gary Chandler. We got to have a magnet
Yeah,
for
I know we got it. I just don't know if I made it.
Hail Hydra, baby. Hail Hydra. And
And
we've also got
in Winter Soldier.
we've got Christina Everhart. She comes back as a journalist, but Justin Hammer gets in jail. And we also have Senator Stern here as like the political side here. And there's Phil Coulson, Happy Hogan. This is what we're looking at so far. Anything else happening in Iron Man 2? I feel like that's basically
isn't really introduced so much. I mean,
No,
yeah,
the hammer.
Milnor is introduced.
Yeah, I just threw this up there because I found Thor and I was like, ooh, I found him. There's a bunch.
Because Thor is actually next on the list.
Hawkeye is going to be next on
Hawkeye's
Thor.
Thor.
Thor is a
Yeah, I
big
got
deal,
you.
y'all.
Thor is a really big deal.
We get lots of stuff going on with Thor, namely, at this point, the greatest villain in the MCU. We have Loki. We've also got a bunch of great Asgardian characters that I'm going to throw up.
Warriors.
And
Warriors
this happens
3,
later
Warriors 3.
because he's currently dead, but Anthony Hopkins, the man, Odin, who dies in Thor Ragnarok, but he's introduced. Here we go. What else? Okay, these guys.
Also, Iron Man 2 was the first introduction of a war machine.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Accept
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that's why we got War
that
Machine.
one?
Because
Don Cheadle.
Because Don Cheadle stole the suit, which, first of all, that's how much trust you have in your best friend. That you give him access to not only your workspace, but you
the
give
entire
him access
armory
to the suits. Because, like, at first you didn't think nobody else could get in a suit except Tom. And he went down there and was like, I would love to have seen him say, Jarvis, do this. You never see him say it. You just see the suit get put on.
Yeah.
And then he just walks, which, again, nobody explained this to me. To the viewers, maybe you can explain this. Anybody else? How did he just leave with the suit and Tony didn't shut it down?
You know Tony has some crazy security measures.
Too drunk.
Because he let him. Because he let his best friend James Rhodes.
Yeah,
he programmed his suits to be like, I can operate this, and also Rhodey, and also Rhodey. Yeah,
but at the same time, he kept telling Rhodey in the fight, take it off. Like,
take
you don't
the suit off.
take the suit off. You don't want to do this. And so, like, after he whooped his ass, basically, he basically left with his suit. I'd have been midair. Jarvis shut it down. And then right before he shut it down, but right before he hits the ground, re-engage.
Yeah.
Just to scare the hell out of him.
And up to this point, too, it should be mentioned, there has really been nothing discussed about Infinity Stones.
No, it's not even
and no real extraterrestrial sort of beings or anything. Like everything that all the movies up to this point have all been taking place on Earth. It's all dealt with Iron Man and the Hulk. And then we jump to Asgard.
That's right. That's
we
right.
technically don't even get an Infinity Stone.
No.
Because we only hear about just the Tesseract.
Yes.
We don't have a stone yet.
No.
Right.
We won't get
It's
a
a
stone.
while.
Because we won't even get a stone. We still don't get a stone in the Tesseract until Infinity War.
Yeah.
Because he has to break the cube.
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother thing.
April, question for you. How did you feel about the human element to the first Thor movie? I'm talking Jane Foster, Darcy Lewis, Eric Selvig. Do you want to see Natalie Portman come back? Or did
They
you not like the
broke up.
character? I know. But hey, so did Pepper and Tony.
loves him.
Pepper and
They were
Tony
on a
took a
break.
break. Okay, so that's the difference. It's the Friends difference. It's they
Yes.
were on a break versus they broke up.
Yeah.
So we're introduced to these characters. We get Sif, Heimdall. We get some later deaths, but Odin, Frigga are now dead, but they are introduced in the movie as well. Laufey, the king of Jotunheim,
giants.
and the father of Loki dies. And then here's the Warriors 3. And we're also introduced to Jasper Sitwell, who later gets killed by the Winter Soldier, but he is right now a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent working with Dead. That's right. Abu Bakar, not dead. His fate remains to be revealed. But Iron Man left him for the
We don't
villagers.
know.
For the villagers of
Oh, no,
Gomera.
you know he was dead as hell.
Probably.
I don't know why you would assume the villagers
Yeah,
was
I
like,
poked his eyes out real good.
But that's
they
what's
stumped
happening.
his soul, yo.
That's Thor, and then I think next we're moving on to the Big Show.
No.
that who's
Captain
next?
Big
America.
Show, Mr. Cap. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not,
I mean,
not the wrestler, the Big Show.
Are we going? We're going theatrical order, right?
Yes, we're going theatrical order.
So yeah, then you're going
Yeah.
Cap versus
Yeah.
Avengers.
Yeah.
Yep.
Peggy out there.
Okay, I'm working on it.
Yeah, we do. I think
working on it.
we have Peggy. I don't know if she
I'm
has a
assuming
magnet.
you are
though.
on the band.
She does have a
to
magnet.
renew Agent Carter.
I got it.
Yeah, I liked the show a lot, actually.
It took me a while to get used to it because I was not a fan of shows where we know pretty much everything that's going to come because it's set in the past. So it's like there's no real stakes, if that makes sense. You know, it was interesting to see the introduction in the zero gravity and stuff like that in Agent Carter, but it was like, for me, the show was like, all right, it's a dope show. I love it. You know, shouts out to Matt Bronger, shouts out to Haley Atwell, all of them. But it was like, I know where this goes.
Yeah.
Because even Howard Stern pops up. I mean, Howard Stark pops up in it, you know.
I mean, it'd be amazing if Howard Stern popped up.
Howard Stark. I was thinking somebody Stark.
Boy.
Howard Stark pops
It's
up.
okay. I'm terrible with names too. So.
But it was a good show, but again, it's just, that was my whole thing.
I kind of want her to pop up in Captain Marvel. I know she'll be a lot older, but she popped up in Ant-Man. I think she can do this. You got
Later,
her?
she passes away, but there's Peggy Carter in Winter Soldier, but she's introduced in Captain America: The First Avenger.
Then
And a
we
lot
got
of these
Bucky,
characters, because the movie's set in World War II, they're technically dead now. They didn't die in the movie, but just enough time has
Arnim
passed.
Zola.
I mean, we've got Bucky Barnes, who later becomes a Winter Soldier. Now he's being called the White Wolf. We have the great Red Skull villain who dies. Then we have the Howling Commandos: Jim Morita, Gabe Jones. We've got James Montgomery Falsworth down here.
We're gonna run out of room.
Dum Dum Dugan.
Oh,
Yeah,
we are.
we're gonna go 2 rows here, and we have Jacques Denier and
Do you have Arnim Zola?
yeah, we got Arnim Zola. We got him. And then here's some good guy characters that I love. Well, first of all, this guy, don't know if he's still alive. He's in the political side. Senator Brandt.
Also, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Here's the thing that a lot of people theorize. I know I have. Red Skull probably is not dead.
That's right. Let's talk about
We
it.
never
Let's talk about
confirmed that
it.
We
he
never
died.
confirmed. All we know is his hand burns off, and the Tesseract takes him.
And he gets teleported
And he
somewhere.
gets teleported. We just assume the Red Skull is dead. He may not be dead. So a lot of people are always like, yo, Red Skull is dead. Red Skull died. No, he didn't. There's no confirmation.
Never, ever any
There's
confirmation.
never confirmation of it.
True. But as of right now, he did die, quote unquote. So did the rest of the Howling Commandos. We've got Abraham Erskine, Chester Phillips, Heinz Kruger, Arnim Zola, who becomes a computer program later, and then Sergeant Duffy. We don't know if he's still alive or not, but these are the rest of the Captain America characters. So how do we feel about Captain America: The First Avenger? You mentioned immediately, bring Peggy up.
Yeah, because she's amazing.
She
I think
at this
that's-
point is the strongest female character in these films.
I agree.
More than Pepper Potts, more than Jane Foster,
more than Black Widow.
Natasha
Black
Romanoff.
Widow.
Yeah, I loved the character of Peggy Carter, especially in that first movie. Hey Ninja, what's up, bud?
I think their relationship is the strongest thing in this movie. Like that last line where he's like, "But I had a date" at the end breaks my heart every time.
Yeah.
Every time. Every time.
That to me, that was the thing I think impressed me a lot in the first Avenger, was 2 characters who are on a mission. They're on a mission. They need to take down Johann Schmidt. They need to destroy, what's left of Hydra. But in the background, there's this romance that's brewing, and they don't make it obvious to other people. Some people obviously, they figure it out and they know, the audience knows, and it's this sort of like fun back and forth where they try to one up each other all the time.
Yeah.
But they still have a huge amount of respect and love for each other.
Yeah.
And it was a really good romance. I really enjoyed
We
it.
get the first Infinity Stone. Which Infinity Stone is the Tesseract? Which one is it?
That's space.
You
Space
sure?
Stone.
Space? Is it
The
space,
blue one.
really?
Yeah, the blue
Yeah,
one.
it's the blue one.
Okay,
the
so
Space
now this one is in play, and it is the Tesseract currently.
But we technically don't know it's a stone.
Yes, we
It's
don't
just-
know. It's
I
just
mean,
a
it's just
cosmic
a
an
cube.
object.
It's just at the time it's the cosmic cube.
Yes.
So,
And
yeah,
that's
so-
when Captain America meets Nick Fury for the first time.
That's right. Right here happens at the end of the film. Then we're moving into the Avengers. We're introduced to Maria Hill, one of the deputy heads of S.H.I.E.L.D. We've got another bad guy here that the Black Widow kicks his ass at the beginning of the movie. We don't know if he's alive or dead. And we have all the Avengers teaming up. We get a tease of Thanos at the end, and then the other as well. He later gets killed by Ronan the Accuser in the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
Yeah.
But not too many new characters are introduced in Avengers, and yet Avengers. It's the biggest, it becomes the 3rd highest grossing movie at the time of all time. It's massive, and it finally proves like Marvel is here. 4 years after they started with Iron Man, we get to the Avengers. All the characters are teamed up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
6.
Who are we missing? 6, Cap. And yeah, I had to put Cap above. Well, I don't know why I put Cap and Bucky above everybody else. And then
What you
Thanos-
trying to say? How do you
look.
feel about Cap and Bucky?
There's some
Yeah.
favoritism here.
I think
Yeah,
there's
there's
a lot of favoritism.
Well, I
going
feel
on
like
here.
Cap and Buck are such legacy characters because of the fact they come from World War II. They are the oldest characters in the current MCU timeline. And to me, I think that's going to play a huge part in Infinity War, because we've seen these characters essentially grow up together, in the oddest way possible. And I think it was Joe Russo who was saying that the story that began in the Winter Soldier will get tied up
In 4.
and wrapped up in 4, whatever that means.
Yeah, they said that.
Whatever that means.
Interesting.
So a lot of it, I have a theory about that.
Yeah.
Because again, the comics introduced two potential new Captain Americas.
Yes.
Bucky being one, Sam Wilson being the other. So after a while, when you started seeing Sam Wilson in Winter Soldier, you were like, wait, which way are they gonna go? But then you got that one shot in Winter Soldier when Bucky had the shield, and you were like, well, we already know where this is gonna go.
How do we feel about him being Cap, though? Do you feel he deserves to be Cap right now?
I think that's the thing. I think Winter Soldier in this movie is definitely going to have to earn it. And I think he's going to have to not only earn it from the audience, but I think also in their real world. I think a lot of people look at Winter Soldier still.
He's a domestic terrorist, basically.
Exactly.
I would love it. I mean, in the comic books, Bucky was Cap for a long time, and then Sam Wilson, the Falcon, took over. I would love it if a movie gave Bucky the opportunity to be Cap for half of the movie or a movie, and then he passes it off to Sam. He goes like, I did my thing, maybe I redeemed myself, maybe we all feel like he does redeem himself, then pass it over to Sam to be the Cap for like 3 movies, you know what I mean? Give Anthony Mackie his own Falcon Captain America movie.
I think that's the way you keep Cap going. You keep the spirit of Cap alive, just like they've been doing in the comic. Because right now, Peggy Carter is Cap in the comic books. I would love to see that. Like, that would be amazing to see Peggy. Because if anybody deserves it, like right now, it would be Peggy. But, you know, she's dead. So
Ronan
down there in the graveyard.
Ronan Unchained asks, what's the scene in Avengers 1 that stood out to everyone? For him, it was the 360 shot of the Avengers.
That's the
Assembly.
shot.
That is shot,
That's the moneymaker, baby.
That's the one that's in the trailer. They were like, that's the trailer
If you
shot.
guys haven't been paying attention, everybody's been doing these retrospectives of the MCU, putting videos online, and there's some great ones. A great one is by Movie Bob. He describes how the reason that movie works is because it spends 2 hours setting up that moment.
That shot.
So that when that shot happens, you are cheering in the theater, and we all experienced that when the movie came out. People do cheer, and it's like, it meanders. It takes 2 hours to set up these characters so that when that shit happens, it works, and then the rest of the movie is, as Movie Bob put it, a victory lap. It's just it's just Hulk kicking ass, and it's so much fun, smashing Loki, and then the movie's over. It's great.
Also, never forget, we teased the fun battle that him and Thor have. Because like they fight, and then they have the scene together. Then they're on the giant Tatari alien worm thing, and then they end up in the bank, and Thor's happy, Hulk's like, out my dick.
I think that Hulk also likes that because it's somebody he can like beat up with. Like,
just-
kind of like how the dogs like biting each other. Like these two can hit each other, and nothing's gonna happen to either of them.
It's fun for me. Like we're play fighting.
They're play fighting.
And that does pay off in Thor Ragnarok later. The way that Hulk treats Thor is like this little brother that he beats up. It's really funny.
One of my favorite animated things is Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes.
So good.
And I like that show because you get a lot of the dynamics of the Avengers when they're not fighting, like when they're hanging out, when there's downtime, when there's not world-ending events happening, and you can see the dynamic between these characters that they are real people and they have personalities and they have their quirks, their likes and their dislikes, and that comes together. And then when they do fight together, and that stuff kind of comes out and how they make it work together. It's beautiful. Like, it's a good thing. And I like that they're building this a little bit. Like, little by little, we're getting bits and pieces of it. And this was kind of like the first time that we got a little bit of that, like, chummy brotherhood, maybe buddy kind of, like, situation going on here. And I think it worked really well.
Oh, dear God. We got to talk about this.
We got to talk about We have to talk about
this.
Up
to this point, though. So this is the end of Phase 1. Avengers is the end of Phase 1. Leading it from all the other movies. Up to this point, which movie other than Avengers was, for you guys, your personal favorite, and or did you have a character that was your personal favorite?
It might be Cap for me, the first Avenger. I love the World War II style. I love that Rocketeer Indiana Jones vibe. So I did love Peggy and
style.
Steve. I love Skinny Steve. Like, I love when he jumped on the grenade. So it might be Steve Rogers was the character I really connected to. And then the Joe Johnson style. So that was it. But I mean, we had Iron Man, The Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America, the first Avenger. I remember when Thor came out, my girlfriend at the time, she was like, oh, I like this character more than Iron Man and Hulk. And I was like, Thor? Okay, because she connected to that character and that whole world and going to Asgard and shit.
Very good-looking gentleman.
Come on.
How can you not? That brought so many female viewers to the scene. You can't deny this.
It's a superhero Fabio.
It became a staple. Like, I think every movie, has like a shirtless shot of the hero. Even Iron Man 1, but it was a fake body when Pepper was getting the thing out of him. We see Tony Stark, and Robert Downey's in great shape, especially for how he takes care of himself and everything. Then in Incredible Hulk, we had Edward Norton shirtless a little bit. And he was doing yoga. He's pretty shredded. Then we get to Iron Man 2. Okay, Thor yeah, shirtless. Captain America, basically shirtless. Yeah, that iconic shot.
He's got those legendary man pecs,
man.
They deserve it, though. I mean,
Yeah.
they're at the gym.
I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you, April. Thank you. Deserve it.
As much steamed chicken and broccoli they have to eat. So
Absolutely.
They work out.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it became a staple. We'll see later with Star-Lord and everybody. So we're moving on to Iron Man 3. And I also wanted to do this just to prove once and for all, like people say that the MCU doesn't have enough like stakes in death. This is just phase 1. It's almost half of the characters are dead now than when they were, than the alive ones. But anyway, we get to Iron Man 3. We get some new
Samuel
things.
doesn't die not in phase 1. He
Correct.
dies in phase 2.
But as where it stands right now, we get a couple things in Iron Man 3. We get the president introduced, so I put him over here with the politicians. We get Mandarin, a.k.a. Trevor Slattery, in jail. Also, Justin Hammer is still incarcerated. We get Harley Keener. We get, and then some characters that end up dead in Iron Man 3. We have Aldrich Killian and Maya Hansen. And it is the movie that proved that they could go back to solo movies after the team movies.
Yes.
And I really like Iron Man 3. It's very divisive. I also like how it feels like a Shane Black movie at times, right? And that's another criticism that these movies have is that they're too much run by the studio. They're too made by committee.
Yep.
And for whether you like it or dislike it, there's a lot of Shane Black in the movie Iron Man 3. He wrote and directed it. And plus, I fucking love Ben Kingsley in this movie so much.
Same third act as Lethal Weapon 2.
Yep, same third act as Lethal Weapon 2. Lethal Weapon 2, people forget, it had an entire army of suits that Mel Gibson called so that him and Danny Glover were jumping around in suits. It was awesome.
And they all
People
blew up and
forget.
made fireworks in the sky.
Yeah, it was great.
That was beautiful.
Same third act. Same third act. No, but Cameron's right. What do you say? Yeah. But how do we feel about Iron Man 3, guys? April.
I'm not a fan that this is the first movie that they do a narrative, like where Tony narrates the film.
True.
And that just feels
We
really
find out
off
to the end,
me.
at the end, to Mark Ruffalo's
Yeah,
Hulk at the very end.
the therapy
It feels off.
session.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you said it feels off to you.
Yes.
Yeah. It's different. Jay.
Yeah.
I liked it personally. Like I said, I like the different style. I like the fact that me personally, I know a lot of people were mad at the Mandarin swerve, which I will admit. There's this thing supposedly that really Trevor is actually the Mandarin. He was just playing dumb all along. But I like that. But I like the way it looked. I like the fact they were able to go back to a solo film and didn't need all the Avengers behind it. This was just Tony having his paranoia, going through his thing, having his PTSD from the Avengers and living with it. And Pepper being there and him buying a big ass bunny.
Guys, don't do that.
Don't you
We
ever
don't need
buy
that.
you fam? You
What do
ever
you
buy
mean? I have one in my car.
buy a 12-foot bunny? What is wrong with you?
Look what set you're sitting on.
But it's like, I like the way they did that because again, like we keep saying, they could go back to the solo films, to the character. This was the one that showed they could go back to just the character.
Yeah.
We didn't have to always have the Avengers in every single film.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. They dive in a little bit more of his psyche, which is good. Iron Man 3 is one of those movies
It's a
that...
PTSD movie.
Yeah.
Literally.
It is.
Because even when he was like, it's not charging.
Yeah.
He freaking out in the car. I'm sorry about that.
No, it's fine. Well, Iron Man 3 is one of those movies where when I watched it, didn't like it. But that's because I came in with the expectations of all the other movies. It's just like when your favorite artist comes out with a new album and you're like, oh, well, this isn't like their last stuff. Of course it's not. They're trying to grow as
J.
an artist
Cole.
and try to do... Don't be mad at J. Cole. Come on. You can't be mad at J. Cole. So it's just like, it's an evolution. It's a growing process. They're trying new things, and I really like the fact that they were delving into more of the psyche of like, yeah, this guy's Iron Man, but what mental toll does that take? He's just a person, highly intelligent. He could probably cope with it a lot better than most of us could, but it still takes a toll on you. And I feel like that's what we need to get across from this movie, that he's a human and maybe he's not going to last forever. Maybe too much damage is going to take Iron Man out.
The one thing that we definitely did mess up is we don't have a card for Malika.
That's right. We're
That's
going to do a
right.
for Malika.
Which we were definitely going to do. So
Draw a
Malika,
stick figure
Next time,
Malika.
next time.
and then
Malika, who
just
lives
draw a
here
little-
and is also the GM of our Power
With
Rangers
hair.
Hyperforce role-playing game show.
Okay.
Make sure
She
you draw
actually
Malika
is
in
in
there.
Iron Man 3.
Yes.
She plays one of Trevor Slattery's, I don't know, not assistants. Yeah,
Assistants.
She's not a henchman, but definitely an assistant. But we were gonna make a card, but Hector accidentally forgot to bring the Blu-ray for Iron Man 3, so
No,
we can
it's
pull it
fine.
still.
Well, there's Malika right
But there's
there.
Malika.
There's
Malika is
Malika.
definitely in the movie.
She's in the movie.
So
We'll take your word for it.
Yes.
Harley Keener, did they say that he was going to be in Infinity War Part 2? Was that a thing? I feel like I
know,
saw
maybe.
a rumor
Was that?
about
I heard
Might
he's
be bringing
Harley
it back?
because they're going back in time.
Is that what they're doing?
Because remember, the still shots, or a lot of still shots we see in 4 are them in their Avengers gear.
Yeah.
It's like
From
a
Avengers 1.
Avengers 1.
We see that cap suit that nobody likes.
The cap suit. Tony Stark has the black satin shirt on, so it's like.
But now, question: if they're messing around with time, this kid actor must have aged since this movie came out. We saw him later in Jurassic World, still looked about the same.
Yeah.
But then he's got to look older than that now, right? How are they?
Have you seen the beginning of Civil War? What they do with Tony
Stark's face?
They're gonna CG that onto a kid's face?
Yep.
I mean, you know.
It'll be better than an old person. Look, they did it with Kurt. They did it with Kurt Russell in the Guardians too.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
looked good. But that's Kurt Russell. That dude is immortal.
Right.
That guy
And
is-
the other thing too about
And
Avengers,
he's also your dad.
And
He
he's
is.
studying Mike.
Yeah.
the other thing about Avengers 4 is what I heard. It is time. They are playing with time, but I also did hear that they're actually going to be using that technology from Civil War in some way.
some
I don't know
capacity.
in what capacity.
Well, I know we didn't like Iron Man 3. I thought that this kid was real cute. I like the kid introduction to the storyline.
I don't mind it.
Iron
don't
Man
mind
3
it.
is an interesting movie for me because
Yeah.
when I walked out of the theater, I thought, oh, I was just kind of, what was this? What did I just watch? It's grown on me for sure.
Yeah,
I
for
think,
sure.
And the last time I saw Iron Man 3 was when we did our Marvel Cinematic Universe watch along.
The Road to Civil War, yeah.
And it grew on me. And I think if I were to sit down now and just watch it, because I watched a different Shane Black movie last night. I watched The Nice Guys. And it's great.
Oh, I love
it's
that
great
movie
movie.
so
It moves,
much.
it pops. It's great.
What does he call the
Nice Guys.
the porn lady or
Oh,
Misty Mountains?
Misty
yeah,
Mountains.
Misty Mountains.
Yeah,
He calls her the porn lady, not
Yep.
the porn like
Yeah.
something.
Super
Yeah,
great movie.
really good movie.
Great movie. So I think if I were to go and watch Iron Man 3 just on its own without watching any other, I think I could look at it just as a solo Iron Man movie, just another entry, a very Shane Black movie, and I think I could appreciate a lot more than I did previously.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay. All right, moving on to Thor: The Dark World.
This is the weakest link for me.
Wait.
Just the ether and that's it. Let's go.
I accidentally did skip Thor: The Dark World because I started putting stuff up.
I was trying to get it to stick. That's Malekith.
I was
Yeah, where he belongs.
yeah.
On the floor.
I already put stuff up for Captain America: The Winter Soldier because that's how bad I wanted to skip this. But we're introduced to the intern's intern, Ian. Okay. Then we get some backstory that Malekith and Kurse were doing some shit. By the end of the movie, they die. Big waste to Adewale, great actor. Waste of him. Waste of Christopher Eccleston as well. And then Bor, who is Odin's father, which is pretty cool. So Odin is Odin Bor's son, and Thor is Thor Odin's son, and so on and so forth. And then later, when we meet Hela, her last name is technically Odin's daughter.
Yeah.
I had to look
Hela
that up
Odin's
on the
daughter.
MCU
Interesting.
wiki. Is Hela Odin's daughter is her last name. But we do get that's basically Thor: The Dark World. It doesn't seem hugely important, but we do have another reality
That's
stone.
the only reason the movie's important.
Ether,
That's
yeah.
it's a 2-hour plot device.
Yeah.
Which is for me it was a bummer, mostly because like I actually do like Kenneth Branagh's Thor movie. I think the Thor movies in general, aside from Thor Ragnarok, are the weakest of the MCU for me.
Agreed.
But I really like the dynamic and the relationship between Thor and Loki. I love Tom Hiddleston, especially coming off of Avengers. He was so great in that movie. But yeah, I think this movie was literally just to set up an Infinity Stone. I think that was it. And if I never see Thor: The Dark World again, I'm
And
totally
never
okay with
forget
it.
the emotion we get in that one scene when Loki finds out that Frigga is dead.
It's great.
Yeah.
When he's in, he trashes the whole thing.
Yeah.
He loses it because no matter how much he fought, you know, after he found out that he wasn't Odin's son and Odin Frigga's son, he still loved Frigga as his mother.
Yes.
And we'll find out later how much he loved Odin.
It was a big. It was the turning point in Thor movies because the first one was like, okay, we're gonna realm into this weird place where maybe not a lot of people are used to, but it's high fantasy. Not everybody's really into high fantasy. In Thor: The Dark World, they went full high fantasy with it. Very Lord of the Rings. Very epic style movie, and it didn't work.
Yeah, you got a Game of Thrones director doing it, and that's what I was kind of expecting. Like my
Should have been Patty Jenkins. Was almost going to be Patty
It was
Jenkins.
almost Patty Jenkins. Yeah, my Game of Thrones-ness is very limited. I've only watched a little bit of it, but
Get your life together.
I know. Eventually, I'll try. But so I just based on that, I was kind of expecting more of that. But yeah, Alan Taylor I don't know because I also wonder what state was Marvel Studios in? Was it very much like we have a formula, you have to follow this formula? Whereas now I feel like they are letting directors kind of make their own versions of these characters.
Like Perlmutter still had to say.
Yeah, that's true too. Like Perlmutter was still in the mix at Marvel.
And one of the great things about, well, I'll say great, right after Thor: The Dark World was when we started getting Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. came right off Thor the Dark World, like after all the big ship was everything.
It's already been that long since that show's been on?
It's been
2013?
Yeah.
Wow.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. started after Iron Man 3.
It was Iron Man 3?
And started mentioning the extremis
Yes,
formula
it sure did.
that was like a big plot point for season 1. And I'll just go ahead and throw some of these characters up there right now to have the little Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. world. Where can I put them? I'll put them up here.
So, Sergio on YouTube says, in my opinion, by the way, thank you so much for the 109 Swedish crowns. In my opinion, Captain America should end with Steve and let White Wolf and Falcon do their own thing. Passing the mantle will work for Grayson or Damian as Batman, because nobody knows Bruce Wayne is Batman. That's also the big thing. That's the big differentiation between the Marvel Cinematic Universe and most other superhero universes. There are no secret identities.
There's a couple.
There are a couple.
There is a
but
couple,
mostly, it doesn't exist.
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, Peter Parker.
Well, if they didn't do what they were about to do.
Yeah.
Because he remembered.
Daredevil, Matt Murdock is another one.
Well, that's going to change. So that changes this season. But
Yeah.
they almost did it at the end of Spider-Man Homecoming. They almost did the whole I'm Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Because it also supposed to happen in Civil War, but again, they didn't own the rights. But that is, everybody knows who everybody is.
Which is kind of like, for me at least, I feel like it's a very refreshing take on superheroes. I think the idea of secret identities and protecting the people that are closest to you, it becomes something that's used very commonly. The Dark Knight trilogy did it, the Superman movies have always done it, and I like the fact that in this, it can go either way, because they know who they are, who they're associated with. It can affect the people around them. It doesn't necessarily have to. It can go bigger, and I feel like that's sort of a nice thing that Marvel sort of established and just went, you know what, screw it, it's not important.
Yeah, I got some characters from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We got Bobby Morse, aka Mockingbird, which is great. Jenna Simmons. I don't have Fitz. I don't have the magnet for Fitz. Melinda May is up here. Then we've got some character deaths. We cannot forget the great Bill Paxton was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as John Garrett. That's him right before he died. Raina was played by a fantastic actress that was in the movie Loving, and she's in Preacher right now. The wonderful Patton Oswalt plays the Koenig brothers throughout it, and one of them passed away. And then, of course, I had to put Edward James Olmos, who played Robert Gonzalez in a later season. I just like that Edward James Olmos is in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. His character's dead, but that shit is dope.
He was there.
So that's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And if I come across some more stickers, I'll go ahead and put them. I'll just put this guy up there right now. This happens in season 4. We have Robbie Ray as Ghost Rider, which I think is dope.
Was the greatest season they did.
So
And now he's the Terminator.
Which I was very upset at. That's another story.
That's cool. That's cool. And also, I couldn't find, in terms of the next Infinity Stone, we went to the Reality Gem. Was that the Ether in Thor the Dark World? That ended with the Collector in his collection. Don't have a sticker for the Collector up here for Benicio del Toro.
How do you not have a Benicio?
I don't know. I don't know if it's.
You have Howard the Duck,
but you don't have Benicio. Right.
We don't have Howard the Duck. I don't think we have him.
You mentioned it earlier.
I don't
think he's magnetized.
I don't think we actually made one for the Collector.
Made one for the Collector?
That'd be kind of crazy if we didn't.
Guys, there's hundreds of characters.
Yeah, but you did Howard the Duck.
I know.
Your priorities are whack.
Howard the Duck was in the case by the Collector.
It's true. That's true. No, I don't think we did. We must have. Did we miss him?
We might have.
We must have missed the Collector. Anyway, he's introduced at the end of Thor the Dark World. That little segment was directed by James Gunn.
Woo!
And so, yeah, and we're moving on to James Gunn. We're after Thor the Dark World. Then we're in Captain America the Winter Soldier, introduces a bunch of characters, namely Sam Wilson, a.k.a. Falcon, a.k.a. Anthony Mackie, a.k.a. Cut the Check.
Cut the check.
Where did Augie go? Where the hell did he go?
He just disappeared on us. He probably did.
Jesus. All right. At the end post-credit scene, we see the first time we see Wanda Maximoff, Scarlet Witch, and later he'll die, but Pietro Maximoff, a.k.a. Quicksilver. We also see Baron Strucker. We're introduced to Brock Rumlow, a.k.a. Crossbones, is one of the Hydra agents in The Winter Soldier. We also learn that Senator Stern is a Hydra agent. Jasper Sitwell's a Hydra agent. He gets killed.
Son of a bitch.
And then Bucky comes back as the Winter Soldier. It's a great team-up movie with Black Widow, Steve, and Sam Wilson.
Arnim Zola as well.
Arnim Zola, that's right. We
Arnim Zola.
learned that he becomes that computer intelligence.
Yep.
And tells us that Hydra's been around for
decades.
longest.
It never really went away.
It never went away.
And I know a lot of people may have missed this the first time we talked about it when the movie came out, but like they do hint at the fact in that sequence that the Winter Soldier, aka Bucky Barnes, assassinated Howard and Maria Stark, which they pay off so well in Civil War. But it was that hint, and I remember after that movie came out, I was thinking, did Steve just go to Tony in between movies and go, "Hey, Steve, I got to tell you this thing," and we learned later, no, he did not. He kept that shit to
saving that
himself.
pain.
Yeah, he's trying to save him that pain. That's right. So that's what's happening right behind you guys is the Winter Soldier. That is so cool. Look at that.
Perfect timing.
That's awesome. Perfect timing. What else are we missing in Winter Soldier? I feel like that's it. Oh, we are introduced to Sharon Carter, aka Agent 13, which is
Who
great.
was not introduced as Sharon Carter until Captain America: Civil War.
Yep.
That's true. She was just Sharon.
She's just Sharon.
Because we do get a beautiful, poignant Peggy Carter scene.
Yes.
Which makes me cry
final
every single
goodbye.
time. Batroc was a great scene as well in the beginning of the movie. Great moment with Batroc the Leaper. They actually made him cool in a movie, which is awesome. And that's it for Winter Soldier. But Winter Soldier, I mean, we were talking about this earlier. 2014 is like
Was probably like the best year for Marvel.
the best year for Marvel Studios because it had two movies came out that was like, no, we've arrived. If you didn't like Iron Man 3 and Thor: The Dark World in 2013,
Here's Winter Soldier and Guardians of the Galaxy.
that was their 2014.
Yes,
I
it
mean,
was.
like we were saying this yesterday, I feel like their biggest years were 2008 with Iron Man and the Incredible Hulk, but just setting it up. 2012 with The Avengers. 2014 with like, here's some really awesome movies. And then probably skip to 2017,
I think this last year was pretty
2018.
damn good.
2017
Yeah,
was
you got-
great because
you
you
got
had
Spider-Man,
Guardians,
Thor, Ragnarok.
Guardians 2,
and-
Spider-Man, Thor, and they were so great and so different. But then 2018 already with their like billion-dollar
Black
Black
Panther.
Panther,
Yeah.
moving into Avengers. It's a
Yep.
massive year.
Yeah,
But yeah, Winter Soldier. How did you guys feel about it?
One of the greatest espionage thrillers in history. Even if you took out the super soldier serum and Steve Rogers and Bucky being enhanced, it is a phenomenal movie. That scene with Nick Fury driving on the road when he realized those cops aren't cops.
Yeah.
That's my favorite scene from like the whole movie.
Yeah, when he
So
realized,
good.
because he looked at the car, then the car gets shot up and everything. He's like, "Get me up out of here!" And he started driving everything,
Yep.
and then he has the thing, the defense system ready, and it's like, "Look, should I fire?" He's like, "Wait, like shield integrity 1%." Now
Yep.
was one of the best scenes throughout that entire movie. Again, we got the scene where Bucky grabs the shield for the first time, but it was so dope. That movie, you didn't need it to be a superhero film. You could just watch that film as it is.
Yeah.
That scene where he's like, "You're my friend," and he goes, "You're my mission." At the end, it's
yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
You're my bitch. Like,
I think for me, Winter Soldier still is probably my favorite film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's like, for me, it's very close between that movie, Black Panther, and maybe like Avengers and Civil War. Like, but but this
Winter
movie.
Soldier's great. I think you could make a case. There's
Yeah.
a handful of movies that you can argue, well, this is their best movie.
Yeah.
Winter Soldier's up there. The first Guardians is up there. Black Panther's easily up there. I think even Iron Man 1 might be up there. But you watch it now and you're like, man, they've so blown it out of the water
Yeah.
since then. Civil War is up there. There's like a handful that you can be like, this is their best up to this point.
Plus, I feel like this is the first time they really made the conscious choice of like, let's make a movie that's different. Like, let's make it a spy thriller espionage movie.
Let's really embrace that subgenre
Yeah.
of the MCU.
Instead of just being like, it's
yeah.
just another entry. It's like, no,
It's
this is
another
a
superhero.
yeah, exactly. It's
that was
espionage
our
movie.
introduction into the Russos.
Yes.
Yes.
Who we was like, yo, the
Coming from
dudes,
Community.
the dudes that did
Yeah.
Community.
Yeah.
Like, they did comedy series. You're going to give them this? And I was like, what? And then you saw, you were like, give them another one.
Yeah.
I drew a little thing for the collector because we forgot him, and I also wanted to highlight fucking Robert Redford was in the Winter Soldier.
Oh,
yeah, Alexander Pierce.
I don't think we
Oh,
have one
that's
for
right.
Pierce.
No, we
don't
and
have
he
one for
dies by
Pierce
the end of it
at all.
And,
Hector,
love that character.
246 characters. You
And
forget
you
two
forget
important
Pierce.
ones.
I didn't forget him. I think I wrote him. I'm pretty sure. Did you forget
I
him?
don't see them on there.
Well, we're gonna have to go check the original copies.
No, look, this is the originals right
we
now.
just gonna watch y'all
I
fight
sent him
real
a
quick.
list. I sent Adam a list.
Oh, okay.
And if he happens to skip over a couple, that happens. No big deal. But or maybe I skipped over. Whatever. It
How
doesn't
late were
matter.
you up last night putting these
I know,
together?
right? Adam hasn't slept yet.
The past week, we've been putting this shit
Hector.
together.
By the way, sorry, I had to take a break because we were talking about Thor: The Dark World. My body had a physical reaction. I had to puke my guts out.
Hey man, that's
but
fair.
I'm back.
That's fair.
And there are no other. Are we missing one of the stones as well? No, right?
Not yet, because we get introduced to the Power Stone next.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
and
Power
that's
Stone's
in
next.
Guardians,
In Guardians
of
1.
the Galaxy.
Which April? That's your jam.
It is. It's my favorite.
Okay.
I didn't know anything about this film going into it,
Same.
and literally I was like, "All right, we got a talking tree and a raccoon." Like this
What the
was
hell is
finally
this?
their
Yeah.
failure, I thought, and I was in love with it.
That was your mentality.
She
before.
sounds
Yeah.
like a lot of people, though. A lot of people was like, this is going to be the movie that just bombs for them.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was the movie that Marvel Studios went in saying, if we can do this and this becomes successful, we can do anything.
Yeah.
And they proved it. Guardians was successful. That's why you got a Doctor Strange. That's why you got Guardians too, because this movie that's never set on Earth, that's set on a foreign planet, with a bunch of people, you're like, who in the hell is Star-Lord? If you didn't know.
Well, I was in the 2013 Comic-Con panel, and it was primarily meant to be for Iron Man 3. And then they did announce the next Captain America movie will be Winter Soldier. I knew a little bit about Winter Soldier. But then they're like, and then we're going to do Guardians of the Galaxy. And I went, what the fuck is that? And then they reveal the concept art. It's like, it's Star-Lord, Gamora, Drax, Rocket, and Groot. And I'm like, it's a tree and a raccoon.
Yeah.
What the fuck is the studio doing? What is happening? But then, the movie comes out, and I went to go. I think, did I go with you? I went with one of you guys.
Well, we worked on that one too. I mean,
we did. I think it was with you, though. And I remember walking out of that movie.
Oh, that's right,
I think I remember walking out of that screen and going, holy crap, this might be my favorite movie.
I mean, but did you feel that way even after we worked on it? Because we saw big portions of it.
You did. I only worked on a couple of shots, so I didn't really see too much of it. So I didn't. The only movie that I saw the most of before it came out in theaters was actually Avengers and Winter Soldier. But Guardians just blew me away. I was amazed how they pulled it off.
I don't know if I'm biased, but I love the music is what changed my mind about that movie.
And you know what I realized? I made this connection today because I've been reading these old Marvel comics that are cosmic stuff, like the old Guardians of the Galaxy stuff that's very Thanos-centric. And because a lot of those comics were like in the 70s and maybe in the 80s a little bit, but they had that 70s vibe, the Guardians soundtrack just makes the cosmic stuff feel even more Marvel and authentic, if that makes sense. Because it puts you in that headspace of like, they were doing trippy-dippy shit in the 70s. A lot of those comics were terrible. A lot of them were great, but they were so out there. I mean, Ego the Living Planet, we'll get to that. That comes from like the 70s era of Marvel comics.
Yeah. But also it makes it very approachable. The fact that like these pop music that you start off dancing, like the beginning of the movie is dancing, you're hooked in, and it's and it's explaining these pretty complex things. Like we're getting into Celestials territory. We're going super cosmic.
Main Guardians right here. We'll eventually meet Mantis in part 2, but we get Kraglin as well. We are introduced to Nebula, who and Gamora and Nebula are the daughters of Thanos. We see Thanos now as a CG character, not played by actor Damien Poitier, but as a CG Josh Brolin motion cap thing. We have the rest of the Guardians, and we do have some deaths. We do have original Groot. I'm counting that as deceased because this is a new Groot.
Word on the street is that it's a new Groot.
It's a new Groot, so we do get a death at the end of the film, as well as Ronan the Accuser, and we're introduced to now everyone's favorite, Yondu Udanta, who dies in part 2. But these big concepts, these big characters, all grounded because James Gunn, he knew to make the movie about a broken family. He knew that that's what the core of the movie was. So it ends up working. They end up becoming people's favorite characters. April, which is your favorite Guardian?
Groot.
Okay, all right. Did he get you right from the get-go, or was there a certain point where you were like, this is my man, Groot is...
I think he was listening to Chris Pratt's jokes about him, like, all right, enough from the Giving Tree, and all of that.
The facial reactions Groot would give, like...
I agree. What got me with Groot was, We Are Groot.
That brought the tears.
He's like, I love all of you guys. I'm going to protect all of you guys. And I'm going, but, you know.
And then baby dancing Groot at the end.
And Drax, every time Drax looks at him, he stops like.
So great. So great.
Yeah.
Love Guardians.
I don't think
great.
Let's just take up the rest of the time to talk about Guardians.
Yeah, well,
we're going to circle back
to the introduction of the Power Stone.
To Guardians 2. That's right. Thank you. The Power Stone, which is now in the hands of the
Collector.
Which we
the Nova Corps on Xandor. So that's on the Nova Corps. We'll just pretend Malika's on Xandar. But that's happening there.
She might as well be.
We still don't know where the Soul and Mind Stones are.
At this point,
but we have Reality with the Collector, Space, which is the Tesseract, in S.H.I.E.L.D. custody, or no? Thor takes it back to Asgard.
Thor has it on Asgard.
Right? So Thor has it on Asgard.
It's in the vault, in the old vault.
Yes. So that's somewhere to, like, Thor has it, we'll say, or the Asgardians, so like maybe down here. That's with the Collector, and then that's on Xandar at the end of the film with the Nova Corps. And we had some, they're not magnetized, but, you know, I got John C. Reilly up in there and Glenn Close and all the great side characters.
You could put them behind magnets if you really want to. Maybe.
And then when we get to Guardians 2, we got Sylvester Stallone, like such great...
Big Rams
is Charlie 27.
Michael Rosenbaum.
Taserface.
No, you got to say Taserface.
Yeah, that's great.
Plus, the cool thing about Guardians of the Galaxy was it definitely opened up an opportunity to now go cosmic.
Yes.
Which is something that a lot of superhero franchises up to this point, I mean, Green Lantern kind of, but it wasn't really part of a universe. Guardians was really their opportunity to be like, let's build out this universe.
Not just that, but these two characters in particular.
Yeah.
Rocket and Groot made it so that I remember when these two characters came out, everybody was using them to demand that other movie studios adapt their characters that they haven't yet, especially like the DC Comics world. It then turned into Warner Brothers. How have we not had X, Y, Z characters yet if these guys have done the talking raccoon and the talking tree from the 70s obscure Marvel, successfully.
And there's been discussions of those two characters having like a spin-off movie. Whether that'll come to fruition, who knows?
I've read those comics. They're great. I would watch that fucking movie. I would watch Rocket Raccoon and Groot. That would be awesome. Man.
Absolutely. There's this French animation company that did like this little 30-second animation with Groot and Rocket. And it's beautifully animated. I just love everything that's kind of sprouting from these characters who nobody had any knowledge of or base like fandom of, and now they're huge, mega huge characters.
I feel like this is also why we could have Thor Ragnarok too, where it goes to all these places and bright and beautiful colors, and Korg, which is a rock as a character. We had a tree, we can do a rock.
That's very true. Yeah. I'll just I'll wait until to put Kurt Russell up there, and especially the humor. I think, solidified that Marvel can do humor.
Yes.
And they can do it very well. So that maybe that was what was unlocking the lackluster Thor franchise. It's like, let's boost it when we get to Ragnarok with that Guardians style. And if we go further out into space, Guardians became the template of like, well, this is what Marvel's space looks like.
Right.
It is this colorful. It is this, we've got blue-skinned people and green-skinned people and it set the precedent.
Which as a dude who is fond of movies, has worked on movies just like you guys have, to see a green person work when they say never do green. Never do green. Never do green.
Yeah, I mean, green is a very particular feel in film.
Yes.
Green is a very particular thing, and to make this work, to make her be a beloved character that is a green skinned person.
Yeah.
The
emotion you got out of Nebula and Gamora.
Yeah.
It was
especially in 2.
Let's talk. 2 makes you want to be like, I just wanted a friend. I just wanted a sister.
So to quickly recap the stones, we've got the Tesseract, which is the space stone. Loki has that.
Now currently, yes.
Now he does. We'll get to the Mind Stone. The Ether is the Reality Stone, which is in the Collector's Museum. The Orb, which is the Power Stone, which came from Guardians, the first Guardians.
The Xandar with the Nova
Corps. Headquarters. And then we'll get to the Time Stone.
Okay, great. Great. I don't think we don't have a sticker for that one.
Nope. I was wondering where was the green one.
Oh, we don't.
Oh, we don't have a time sticker.
How did you forget? There are 6 stones.
Guys, it's okay.
Let's
3
go
back in time.
Yeah,
let's do it.
There's back in time.
Just kidding.
I can always.
It's got to be in there somewhere.
Just draw it. Just draw it, Hector. Okay. Just draw that. We have a green marker. Just draw it.
It just might not be magnetized.
No, I didn't. I combed through all those things, and I didn't see a single. Or I didn't put any of the green ones on. That's fine. Draw one on there.
I will. I'll do it. We're not there yet. Next up, Avengers: Age of Ultron. Ultron gets killed at the end.
Yep.
Ulysses Claw's introduced.
I got Dr. List. Yeah, Ulysses Claw. I'll bring him up.
Claw's introduced.
I'll bring up Claw. Later, he dies. But we do get him. He gets his hand chopped off so that he could later become Claw from like the comic books. But that's awesome. He's hinting at vibranium. Right, because that's what Ultron gets made out of.
We see a whole tanker full of what he stole.
So that's all hinting towards Black Panther. So comic fans knew this was them slowly moving towards Panther.
Vision is finally Vision.
Vision is born through all of those, through the body that Dr. Cho was working on, and Tony's Jarvis program,
and
the vibranium body mold thing, and the Mind Stone. Was it the Mind Stone?
Yeah, because Thor had the dreams of something in the scepter. Yeah. And then he finally went into that pool. Yes. And that's when he realized.
And Thor's Mjolnir as well, adding that electricity, that spark from a god.
Oh, this is not a scepter. This is an Infinity Stone.
Yeah.
And then because it wasn't enough power to make the body, that's when Mjolnir gave it the electricity light.
Boom. And Vision is born. And I love that they brought back Paul Bettany, who's been voicing Jarvis up to this point. To be like, well, now can you please be this character?
Now you gotta be a character.
Now you gotta work, son.
Now you gotta do
red. You gotta work, son.
They told him, it was like, you want to do the character? He was like, yeah. However, you gonna sit in the chair every morning for about 4.5 to 5 hours. You cool with that?
Yeah.
I'm perfectly fine.
Yeah.
After 2 movies, I can't do this shit.
Kill me off.
Kill me. Like, I can't do this no more.
We get a bunch of Avengers sort of teaming up. Hawkeye really has this great moment with Scarlet Witch at the end. Like I said earlier, Quicksilver dies. He sacrifices himself to save Clint Barton. Yeah, that was great. When he was like about to kill Quicksilver, it was good.
I will say, for me, Age of Ultron is a step down from the first Avengers movie. I think for most people it is.
Yeah.
I do know people though that prefer Age of Ultron to the first Avengers because
I'm sure they exist.
It is more complex, has more moving pieces, has more character moments. Hits the ground running. Like it attempts to do more. And I think a lot of the stuff that it talks about with Ultron and his speechifying and their philosophy, like that shit is chewy. You can chew on it and it's interesting. It's just like, is the end result, is it too many cooks in the kitchen? Maybe. Is it a little too muddled and it maybe didn't let Joss Whedon do his thing? Maybe. Because again, that first Avengers movie was them building up for 2 hours until the moment. And this one, it's like, well, we got to have these characters, these characters, these characters. And Joss knew to go to Ultron. Before he directed the first movie, he said, I don't know if I'm gonna do Avengers, but whatever you guys do, Loki should be the bad guy for the first one, Ultron should be the bad guy for the second one, and then beyond.
But here's the problem. Here's the problem I have with Ultron as a comics fan. If you know the comics, if you know the cartoons, Ultron kills them. Absolutely. He kills a couple. So to not see any deaths at the hands of Ultron, I hate to say it, it was a little bit, again, cheated. Because if you knew who Ultron was, you knew this is literally one of their hardest foes. Next to Thanos, and like he's practically indestructible until we find out Vision can kill him. But he doesn't do any real damage to them. Like he mentally has them scarred using Scarlet Witch.
Right.
But
I agree with you, Jay, and I'm a big fan of the fact that Ultron, whenever I see him in the comics and whenever I see him in the animated series, I'm like, it's instantly terrifying to me. Because this character is a character that's basically there all the time, is unbeatable. You don't know what's going to happen. He's a master manipulator. And so that's what I expected from this movie too. But it's hard to sometimes it's hard to separate yourself when you have that kind of comic book knowledge. They have to
introduce him. They have to do a bunch of different things. But you bring up a good point though, Jay.
I agree.
At the end of the film, he dies when Vision takes him out the last drone. We've seen this happen in the comics time and time again.
Though?
He uploads himself to something.
They say supposedly he was cut off from the internet.
Correct.
But that doesn't mean he didn't put himself in a drone.
What if he put a copy of himself in Vision?
Technically, a copy of himself is in Vision.
Vision, yeah.
Because remember, when he was making Vision, when they were making Vision, he was connected to him.
That's true.
He was so a part of Ultron is in Vision.
Do we want to see him come back? Is the question.
Not in the iteration we saw him in Age of Ultron.
I will say this though, James Spader
He's great.
He made Ultron hilarious.
Yeah,
he was like, he's like, bombs make people make bullets. People make little people. Children work against me. Like he made Vision happen. He made that artificial intelligence, gave him character, gave him life.
I agree with that. I agree. Well, sorry, go
I was just gonna say this film actually has one of my favorite running jokes when they all try to pick up the hammer.
Yeah, it's great.
Oh yeah.
And then it comes back and they're like, should we trust Vision? Because they don't know if like.
Oh, dude, just was like,
we must be going.
Yep.
And everybody just sat there, stopped, and looked like, yup.
So Adam and I worked on that one too, and I had that part ruined for me unknowingly.
Yeah.
So we go into dailies. Somebody's working on that shot. I had no idea. We get just bits and pieces of the movie, and then I see Vision holding the hammer. I'm like, what is going on? Like, I should not be working at this company right now. This is stupid.
Remember one of the parts about that was the best part to me when everybody was trying to pick it up, right? Tony and Rhodey go get parts of their armor.
Oh yeah.
But then when Steve Rogers
he wiggled it.
When Steve Rogers he wiggled it, and if you look at Thor like, oh shit.
And then he goes, nothing. Like, pretending it didn't happen.
What do you think prevents Captain America from being able to?
He's got bodies. He's killed people.
You think so?
Cap's a soldier. He kills people.
Thor kills people too.
I don't
He's
think
worthy.
killing people is a rule that you can't hold.
Okay.
Mjolnir.
Yeah. So what makes?
I think it's all mental. I think that Steve budged it, and Steve's such a nice guy. He would probably feel bad if he could pick it up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's almost like gloating in front of Thor. So he's going along with the crowd when everyone's kind of messing. But Steve's not a guy who messes. That's not his forte.
He tried to pick it up. He was trying to pick it up.
Yeah, he did. But I think it's all mental.
Yeah,
and
I
I
don't
think
think it's the body.
if
You're right.
Mjolnir
Yeah.
ever comes back in some iteration. I think that because it's happened in the comic books, Captain America is such a good dude that he could become worthy and pick it up temporarily.
Yeah.
That might be a moment that would happen in the movies, and it would be
agree.
epic. It
I
would be
agree.
incredible.
I would have loved Tony Stark picking it up. He was like,
I know.
So I rule Asgard. He was like, no, but he was like, so I rule Asgard, right?
Yeah, so I'm the king now, right? Makes
That was
sense.
all great setup. That was Joss Whedon knowing, like, we're going to set up the scene with this character banter in the beginning. You know, Black Widow doesn't even try. She's like, no, I'm good. I don't. You know, it all works for the characters, but it's all set up for that Vision moment at the end, so that the audience immediately knows, like, to trust this guy and to just
I think we just chopped that we just wrote that scene off. We was like, oh, this is a fun moment.
Yep. But it's set up.
They bring it
It's
back
more
at
than
the
a fun
end,
moment.
too.
Right, we didn't realize it was more because of
Yeah.
what you get at the end.
Yeah.
with the Vision.
And then they're talking about the elevator too. They're like, will it still go up? Elevator's not worthy.
It's a good joke.
Very true.
And not only
joke,
that,
yeah.
that movie does, in some way, set up what comes later on in Civil War, where you have Tony
Yes.
and Cap butting heads a little bit and talking about their differences and stuff.
Because Tony wants the war to be over.
Yes.
And Steve's like, there will always be a need for soldiers. So it's very
He's like,
interesting.
this is why we fight, so we don't
Yeah,
have to
so we
fight.
can go
Yeah.
home. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
And then the final scene, we have him setting up the new team of Avengers at
Yes.
the end. And he goes, Avengers, and they cuts off before
still
he says it.
Good. I'm glad.
I'm gonna lie because it'll happen in Infinity
I
War.
hope it
probably.
has to because I've been waiting on that. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know how many other people feel. I've been waiting on that line.
Yeah.
We all have been.
I think
like April said, that Avengers. I was like, you son of a brother.
Yep.
I love watching the bloopers. In the bloopers, Avengers.
Really great.
I think
before-
there's one
Oh, yeah.
cut where he actually said it that we're never
don't
gonna
know,
see.
maybe.
I think there's one cut that
Absolutely there
we're
is.
never gonna see.
So-
Should never get released.
I just want to mention, so we're doing really well. We're toward the end of phase 2.
Killing it.
We're at the
Good.
hour,
Killing
10-minute
it.
mark.
Nice
We're
job,
doing
guys.
great.
Nice job, guys.
We have over 1,100 people watching, so thank you all for
Thank you
watching.
for watching.
If you've never watched Hyper RPG before, this is Hyper Heroes. We are doing Journey to Avengers Infinity War. We're basically recapping, pulling out all the important characters and events that have happened in the MCU in the last 10 years. We also do have a Patreon going on right now. It's an ongoing thing, obviously. You go to patreon.com/hyperrpg. Support all the content that we're making. Our next goal at 1,500 is to unlock our weekly superhero show, Hyper Heroes, live every single Thursday night at 9:30. We've also got a whole bunch of other tiers and goals that we're trying to reach to. One of them being Doom the Musical, which is something that was suggested by our fan, our good fan. She's been around for the longest time, Claire58, to do Doom the Musical. So we hope to one day get to that goal.
Can you sing?
No. None of us are.
You'll find out.
Writing it. We're just
Okay.
writing it.
Yeah. But that's a huge goal that we really want to do. No. But yeah, if you guys do end up joining the Patreon for as low as $1, we've got a bunch of different tiers. One of the things you get is early access to a lot of the YouTube videos that we do here every single week, and also access to a lot of the live streams. This is probably going to be one of the last live streams that we do on YouTube. Everything else will be moving exclusively to Patreon. That doesn't mean you won't have access to the content. The content will eventually be unlocked, but through Patreon, you'll be able to get first
It's gonna be
dibs
live on
everything.
Patreon, not live on YouTube.
Exactly.
I want to thank everybody for appreciating my Bulls hat. Got it from
And
the
thank you
crib.
guys so much for all the great comments. There's been so many great comments that I'm going through, and I'm picking through comments to bring up when they relate to a lot of the movies that we're discussing.
Somebody mentioned about my shoes. What are those? Don't make me take these off and slap you with them. These are my chanclas.
First of all,
chanclas.
you didn't say it right.
Yeah, they're
'cause they
quoting
didn't just
Shuri.
say, what are those? They said, what are those?
Say that.
Yeah.
But these are my chunks, my chanclas. You're gonna get smacked up with them. Keep talking. Keep talking. I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you.
Okay, guys, let's finish up phase 2, moving
Yes.
into
All right.
Iron Man. I'm not Iron Man, Ant-Man.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
I love Ant-Man.
Ant-Man.
It's it
The
doesn't
original, it was supposed to be the original beginning of Phase 3.
Yes, doesn't have the highest stakes,
Yeah.
but it's a great little personal story, and we get Mr. Paul Rudd as Scott Lang.
Yes.
We're then introduced to Hope Van Dyne, Evangeline Elite Love Her, Michael Douglas, Hank Pym, and we're teased with the original Wasp, Janet Van Dyne. She's still stuck
We
in the
also found out that
microverse.
Hank is the original Ant-Man.
Correct, which happened, and we get a nice little flashback with
To
Howard
Howard-
Carter
and
Howard
Howard
Stark.
Stark,
They're
yes.
there. So we get this nice little Ant-Man world, and one of my favorite characters of all time, Luis. who can sum up this entire thing right here. He's
So I got a
introduced
friend
as well.
who knows a friend. He knows his dude who knows his dude.
Yeah.
Friend.
Yep.
This guy is cousins about this and brother.
Perfect.
He
That
knows
is
Ant-Man.
Yep.
Yes. And Darren Cross dies. Right there.
So
Corey Stoll.
Blvd brought up a good question.
Yeah.
I will ask this question when we get to Civil War because it's a really good question.
Okay, we're at Civil War. Let's ask it.
Okay. This relates to Civil War and it relates to Age of Ultron. Blvd, first of all, thank you so much for the $5 tip.
Uber's the best.
Blvd asks, what if Cap couldn't pick up Mjolnir in Age of Ultron because he was keeping the secret from Tony about Bucky being the one who killed Tony's parents?
Uber Baldy. That's what we love you, my friend.
He had,
Oh my
he had a
gosh.
lie in his heart.
He had a lie in his heart.
That's it.
God damn!
That's it. If he had told Tony, he would have picked
shook.
up.
If he'd have told Tony
Uber,
beforehand,
He could have picked it
he'd
up.
have picked it
This
up.
seat right here is for Uber. I'm holding this seat right here.
Because it gave
for
Steve
Uber.
a guilty conscience.
Yeah.
It made him, it was always in the back of his mind,
Oh.
was like, I love you, but I can't. Boogie, you want some
This is
chips?
too much.
You want some chips?
Let's go get some Burger King. Let's just go hang
I'm
out.
gonna try to get drunk.
You know who I'm sad isn't up here?
Hmm.
Where's Antony?
I had him in the deceased.
You did?
I did. Right, Adam?
Yeah.
I did.
where
I-
is
There's
that?
a, there should,
We have a.
I
we
just
have
don't
an
think he's
Antony.
He's so
magnetized.
important.
Here we go. I'll get him. I'll get him. I'll get him.
Anthony is that dude.
Anthony. Let's talk a little bit about
Anthony?
Ant-Man before we wrap out to Civil War. Get to the big show.
Introduced us to the quantum realm.
Yes.
Yes.
The microverse of the
Absolutely.
quantum realm.
Microverse, yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, where we see the silhouette of Janet Van Dyne.
Yes.
I remember I caught that, and I thought it was a mistake in the movie theater, where when it was flashing, I was like, "Wait, did I just see a silhouette of a wasp-looking character?"
Yep.
You put him up
And then it was confirmed later on. So it's cool that they're going to kind of like venture into that territory.
I also love
Yeah.
how we haven't seen a picture of her yet. We haven't seen anything of Michelle Pfeiffer.
of her face.
Oh, true.
I mean.
No, we haven't seen anything about Michelle Pfeiffer, how she looks as Janet Van Dyne.
I think
Has it been?
I think at Comic-Con
They did a
They did?
fake "Will You Be My
That's
Mom?"
true. Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of,
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
like the
Oh, okay.
Thor short, kind of like
Yeah.
like a behind-the-scenes fun thing for the audience. It may show up on a Blu-ray at some point, but yeah,
But
that's
yeah,
all
you
they
haven't
did.
seen.
But I don't think we've officially seen a photo of Michelle Pfeiffer
Yeah.
from the
Not
movie.
yet, not official.
I don't
And
think
that's
so.
why in the first Ant-Man, this character, this whole sequence was like all CG. And it
Yeah.
worked.
Yeah.
You know, we get Wasp, but they didn't cast, and even in the pictures of Janet Van Dyne with Hank Pym, with like a young Michael Douglas,
Yeah.
her face is obscured by a hat and stuff. So like, they
Yep.
found creative ways to be like, we haven't cast this actress yet. We are hinting that she's still alive. We want to focus on Hope. We want to focus on Scott. We want to focus on. We've even got some cutouts for like Cassie, Scott's daughter, that adorable little girl. Like she's super cute.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I really dug Ant-Man. Great special effects too, and like a lot of fun. A great way to take a silly idea from comic books
Yeah.
and use a character who scoffs at it, who's like really Ant-Man, and it's like that's the entry point because if he's laughing at it, the audience laughs at it, and if by the end of it he's the one who's like, okay, I'm Ant-Man, then
And he
we're with
embraces
him.
it.
Right,
If he
right,
embraces
right.
it, we embrace it. So
You
yeah.
thought Ant-Man was going to be a dud.
I thought I was
Yeah.
not excited for Ant-Man
Yeah.
whatsoever, and that's because Edgar Wright, you know, like the whole thing,
Yeah.
and, you know, the whole debacle. I was very worried about this movie, the whole pre-production thing, and I was proven wrong in the best way possible.
Hey, man,
They did amazing.
You put T.I. in an MCU film.
Yeah.
They did put T.I. in an
You
MCU
put
film.
T.I. like
Yeah.
when you heard that, I was like, wait, Grand Hustle T.I.? You mean Tip T.I.? You know, Tiny's baby daddy T.I.? You know, you start thinking of everything, but it's like what he did worked.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
He's
was glad
great.
they killed off Yellow. I will say I was upset. That's one thing Marvel
Yellow
does.
Jacket?
They killed off Yellow Jacket. Like they take
I
the
loved him.
greatest foes. I mean, Grant, they kill him off quick.
Well,
Like,
Jay, to be fair, he was one-dimensional. Corey Stoll, the actor, was great.
Yeah,
the
but
suit's
yeah,
cool.
Darren's
you know, they
cross
didn't
was-
give Darren enough.
Right.
So I like to do this because we're illustrating
sense, though.
who's dead, but which villains are still alive. There's still some
Right.
that are in play.
Right.
You know, but yeah, we've lost a bunch of great.
because we actually found out how
Threats.
much Justin Hammer. When you say that, Justin Hammer's influence goes even through the TV series.
In Ant-Man too, and in the TV series, but yeah, there was like Hammer drones that were, or like factions of Hydra were interested in buying that Pym tech to go
Yeah.
use it in warfare and stuff.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, so it's all there. So let's April.
I was just gonna say one thing I loved was Anthony Mackie coming into this film.
Such a good
Oh,
scene.
that was
and
great, yeah.
that really
man,
brought
he's got some
Ant-Man
type of
into
tech.
Civil War
did.
because he's like,
It
I
did.
knew a guy,
Yeah.
and that was him.
I don't think you can
So
see
great.
me. I can see you.
You can see me. Okay.
Because that was when we got the post-credit scene with them with Bucky.
Yes.
We
Yeah.
got the post-credit scene with them with Bucky's arm in a vice. He was
Yeah,
like,
I know a guy.
I remember everything.
Yeah.
Your mom's name is Brenda. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
I was pretty surprised by Ant-Man because Peyton Reed was coming in very, very last minute. He had just under a year to make this movie, and not that that's an impossible feat, but for a superhero movie, it's pretty uncommon. I feel like Marvel now has sort of been able to kind of figure out how to do these movies, except for Infinity War, which is a huge production.
Yeah.
But how to really do these movies in like under about a year. Even Ryan Coogler, I think he had just about 12 to 14 months to make Black Panther. It's
crazy.
And like, what a great movie.
Well, that's because he was the second director. Remember,
Black Panther?
Ava DuVernay originally had.
She was in discussions. That's right.
And
she walked away.
Wrinkle in Time.
Yeah, and then she went to Wrinkle in Time because she thought that Marvel wouldn't give her the creative license to do what she needed to do.
Yeah.
And so she literally recommended Ryan.
Yeah.
She said, give it to Ryan.
That's awesome.
She said, give it to Ryan.
You know, he made a little movie, you may have seen it called fucking Creed.
Yeah.
Great.
And
Fruitvale
Station is amazing.
Yep.
So, you know, she gave it to him, and then Michael, you know, he has a relationship with Michael B. Jordan
Yep.
because they'd already cast Chadwick. And he was like, well, I'm going to do the opposite. Who do I do opposite Chadwick Boseman? We'll get to it, but Michael B.
My
Jordan.
homie, Michael B. Jordan.
Moving on to Captain America, Civil War, the big show. Two major characters are introduced. We've got Peter Parker, Spider-Man, and May Parker, and T'Challa, a.k.a. Black Panther,
Yes.
the king of a sovereign nation, and his
Also,
father,
arguably
T'Chaka.
T'Chaka, yeah.
Oh, he should be
T'Chaka
deceased, though.
Yeah,
That's
he is.
weird.
Because he
should be down
deceased.
here.
He dies.
Aww.
Sorry, T'Chaka.
That
but
led
that's
to
okay.
some
He had
really
a
great
moment.
moments
Yeah.
In Black
that we will
Panther.
talk about.
And Everett K. Ross as well. He was only introduced in this. It was, I forget the producer's name, a producer idea to introduce Black Panther in Civil War to lead into his own film. And Everett K. Ross was introduced with the intention of, well, you're just going to be in Black Panther later.
Yeah.
Because Everett K. Ross is a Black Panther comic book
Yes, he
character. So when he's introduced in Civil War. And then we've got Helmut Zemo. And by the end of it, he's incarcerated, but he sets the whole plan to have Steve versus Tony. Tony has his crew. Steve has his crew trying to hunt down the Winter Soldier. I mean, this movie was huge, and it was crammed full of characters.
Did we talk about Aunt May being introduced in this?
You're
Yep,
hot
right
at,
there,
you're
right
hot
there.
at, you're unreasonably hot at. Also, I think this movie, I always say Civil War is Avengers 2.5. We're sorry for Age of Ultron. Like, it was their apology film. Because even though you didn't have Thor and you didn't have Hulk, you got pretty much all of your Avengers. And you were like, I love this.
Yeah. I wouldn't call it an apology film, but it was definitely an answer to like, well, look, we got more stuff in store for you. So
I get what you're saying.
Don't blame us all on Ultron because there's other stuff happening.
Yeah.
So we also have Peggy die in the
That's right.
Off screen, but like it made sense. But you know, it was an off-screen death. But just to have that call where Steve answers the call and he goes into the hallway and like we know what that call is.
Was brutal.
Because he was like, I gotta go. He literally left the most important meeting ever about the Sokovia Accords. And was like, my heart just died.
Did it weird anyone else out that he's making out with her niece? You just
It's
creepy to me.
That happened in the comic books too. There was Peggy Carter back in World War II, and then her niece Sharon Carter became Cap's love interest in the present day. Yeah,
can I
it
ask
is
a
weird.
question though? April, why do we want to say it's weird though? Because it's like they're like the same age range or whatever.
Right.
However, she looked at and ended up dying. Him freezing and being a super soldier, he has the look of a mid-30s young man.
Sure.
And so Sharon was like, Black Widow ain't gonna give me none. Let me because he was like, I keep trying with this.
The only way they made that not creepy is that they revealed he didn't know that they were related until the funeral, and Sharon's there and she says, "My great aunt Peggy," and that's when Steve like takes notice, and Steve's whole like motivation in that film comes from a speech that they gave Peggy, that Peggy then gave to Sharon, because Sharon described how like she was a woman working in her field her entire life. In the era that she worked in, she dealt with some bullshit, and we've seen it in her 2 seasons of her show. We saw it in her Peggy Carter one shot, and we saw a little bit of it in Captain America: The First Avenger, the sort of sexism that she had to face. So her speech of like, you plant your feet and you say, no, you move, was so inspirational for Steve, and that came from a speech in the comic books written by J. Michael Straczynski in the Amazing Spider-Man comics of Civil War, where Steve himself said it. But I love how they attributed that to Peggy, which then went to Sharon at the funeral, and that gave Steve his motivation of like, I know what to do, I know what's right.
That's
his drive.
It resonated with him.
Yeah.
Tony has so much drive. I mean, Ultron, Sokovia, and then
this woman Miriam who walks up and says, "My son died in Sokovia."
Man, remember he was like, "Yo, what are you doing?" He thought she was gonna pull a gun on him.
Yeah.
In the beginning.
And we also find out that him and Pepper are taking a break. He's just in a really bad place.
Most of his hands everywhere.
Tony's getting beat up.
But since all the way back from Iron Man 1, he's had moments of you need to take ownership and responsibility for your actions. And Tony's been the guy from Iron Man 1 that has seen his weapons fall into the wrong hands. So when we get to this point of it's about accountability, you can see his point of view. You can understand where he's coming from. You can't really fault him. He doesn't have the information that Steve has about him being brainwashed. He just knows that like Winter Soldier killed T'Chaka. You know what I mean?
And
so
then
it's like,
finds out later he killed it.
We got to go stop this
Which
guy.
was
And
crazy.
then Scarlet Witch accidentally kills people in Nigeria. Like it's...
Remember, he didn't. Did you ever pay attention to the fact that Tony didn't care that Bucky killed his dad? Because he was like, "You killed my mom."
Yeah.
That was the part that hurt him more. Like him and his dad had that rocky relationship.
He didn't say parents. He didn't say
he
dad.
said-
He didn't say my.
He killed my mom.
You
Steve.
killed my mom.
Yeah. Yep.
That was the one.
great.
That was his motivation.
Because him and Howard have always had daddy issues.
And then even
Tony
on
and
two,
Howard.
he found out that Howard kind of believed in him to help him make the new element, which we still don't know what it is. Did anybody realize that? Instead, the element
That
he
new
made
element in Iron Man 2.
Iron Man
that
2.
replaces the
Oh, yeah.
palladium, we
Yeah.
still don't know what it is.
Also want to bring this up as a weird little backstory of Tony Stark. If you watch the show Agent Carter, you're introduced to the character Edwin
Edwin
Jarvis,
Jarvis.
who then later inspires Jarvis the program because there's comic books set in the MCU that show that he, after the war and after working with Peggy, goes to work with Howard Stark, right?
Yeah.
The young Howard Stark, played by that actor at the time from First Avenger, and that same actor, Dominic Cooper, does show up in Agent Carter. So when he goes to work with Howard for his whole life, eventually young Tony is born, and he even helps him a little bit when he's a young little kid. There's moments he's struggling with his dad, and he helps him with some stuff as that sort of famous Jarvis butler from the comic books. He even kind of goes bald like the comic books, and then he passes away. But his connection with Edwin Jarvis was the inspiration for him naming that program Jarvis, and then later led to Vision and stuff. So he has, it's all this whole thing's about daddy issues, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
that's what it's all about.
That's Tony's arc. It's
That's
daddy
everybody's.
issues. Yeah.
Everybody has daddy
everybody's got
issues.
daddy issues, you're right.
Thor has daddy.
Everyone.
Okay, so
Yeah.
where's Gamora?
There's yeah, right there.
She got
Even Vision's got
daddy
daddy
issues.
issues.
Ultron.
Robotic daddy issues.
Yep, Yondu. I mean, basically everybody except for Steve, because Steve was like an orphan, you
Yeah.
know, and was just like, you know.
I mean, you could still
Yeah.
call that a daddy
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah, him and Abraham Erskine certainly had a relationship as well, like
Yeah.
a mentor relationship.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we are in Civil War. We get that stuff introduced. Amazing film. Then we go over
Spider-Man
to
deal
the
was
Magic
huge.
World. Spider-Man
yeah.
deal was huge.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about Homecoming because I do have some magnets for some
Yeah.
people over here, including the Vulture, when we get to that. But love Civil War, and where it ended is, you know, a lot of these pictures are being pulled from. Steve is breaking Scott out of jail. Is you know, we see Anthony Mackie, Falcon, and Scarlet Witch are in prison, and he's busting these guys out. Clint as well. I think he got him out of there too. So a lot's happening, and the Avengers are split. So they're gonna have to come together in Infinity War. That's what's gonna be happening. But we're moving on to Doctor Strange, a controversial film, a really interesting movie and different from the rest of the MCU.
Very different.
I don't think a lot of people's favorite, but there are people that are like, no, that one was my favorite movie because it just, again, the same way that we get Ant-Man opening up the microverse, Guardians of the Galaxy opening up the space world, we have wizards now on
We
Earth.
got magic.
We got magic now.
And Wong even openly admits that. He says, just like the Avengers defend the physical plane,
We defend
we defend
the mystical
mystical
realm,
world.
plane or whatever.
So
yeah.
they openly let you know this is what it is.
Yeah.
And you get the introduction of the Ancient One.
Right here, she passes away as well. She slows down time so that she can see the rain
You get
here.
Caecilius, you get
Where's Rachel McAdams?
Rachel McAdams not up here, but I think we did have a
We do
thing
have a
for her. We
card,
didn't
I think.
magnetize her. She's in
Yeah,
here
she's
somewhere.
not
Yeah.
magnetized.
Thomas616, thank you so much for the $5 tip, who says,
thank
just
you.
want to point out that in the beginning, if Wanda didn't limit the explosion in Civil War in Lagos, that the bomb would have wiped out a lot more people at that market. Which is
Yeah.
very true. Very
It was a
true.
lesser of two evils type of situation,
Yeah.
which made things tricky. Like there was no good outcome with
Yeah.
that.
No matter
thing.
what.
Yeah.
They did the best thing possible. Unfortunately, that resulted in killing a king and all this other stuff. But I feel like that's a way to kind of start off the Wanda Maximoff, like, I'm not mentally ready maybe to join this initiative yet. But
Well,
I'm gonna
she
do it
didn't kill
anyway.
the king. She's the reason for the Sokovia Accords.
Oh yeah,
Right.
sorry. Yeah,
Yeah,
she's
she's
the
the
reason for the
Sokovia
Sokovia
Accords. Because it was
Which
finally that, look,
resulted
this is
in,
the
like,
last,
Yeah.
with the whole Bucky killing.
Right,
But I get where
right.
you're coming from.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's like it set off this chain of events,
Yeah.
really. So
And I'm gonna have to draw this, and I will do it. But we have.
I want it as accurate as possible, Hector.
You got it. When we get to Doctor Strange, we have Karl Mordo, who is now a villain, Chiwetel Ejiofor's character at the end of the film. He's still in play. And we're also introduced to the Dark Dimension, Dormammu, who takes Caecilius as a mindless one. So they're still in play as well. But according to Doctor Strange's bargain, that he was there to show up to Dormammu, like he's out because he doesn't want to deal with time. But
he said, "I'll have you keep repeating this same moment over and over." And then we find out the reason he can deal with time is the Eye Agamotto, which more specifically has an Infinity Stone.
It's not accurate. More accurate, Hector. Hector, more accurate.
You're such an artist.
Hector's a very good drawer.
It's really shitty. But anyway, that's the time stone. There's the Eye of Agamotto.
Okay, I'll take
You barely
that.
tell what it is.
It's not green.
It's
There's
that thing
green
that
markers there,
I could have.
Hector.
Yeah, all right, I'll use green.
Dang
Here,
it,
I got you.
Okay.
Here we go. I'll fix it.
All
Don't
right,
worry.
there you go.
I feel like a little candy that you pull on plastic.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it does.
Like
It does look like
wrapped
that,
on both
doesn't it?
sides, yeah.
God damn it, Hector, get it together, Hector.
Like the ones you see at your grandma's house.
Next to the elements.
Yeah, exactly.
So a little known fact about Chiwetel Ejiofor's character: when he signed on as Mordo, he signed on for multiple films.
Yeah, he'll be back.
So he'll be back.
He'll be the villain.
He'll be the next Loki.
Yeah.
Because we'll talk about it. I think Loki is murdered by the Black Order.
Okay.
Most likely.
They're like they are
that
going
could
to be
happen.
Tom Hiddleston ain't making it through
We're almost
Infinity
there.
War.
We're almost getting there.
I don't think so.
I think he's making it through
I'd be
that.
surprised.
That's Doctor Strange. We're moving over to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, which kind
Baby
of
Groot.
takes a backseat. We get Baby Groot, who then
Daddy
by the end of the
issues
movie
all day long.
is Team Groot. These events are still happening in the year 2014. It was only 2 months after the first
Yes.
Yeah.
Guardians. We have no more Thanos, but rather Nebula, Gamora, they're dealing with their shit, and Peter's dealing with his shit, which leads to the death of Ego by the end of the film.
As
played
well
by
as
Kurt
Yondu.
Russell. And Yondu as
And
well.
Yondu.
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all.
That's right.
I'm Mary
So that's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. The last shot of the movie, if you don't count the credit scenes, are Rocket Raccoon crying right there. That's the last shot. And that's fucking ballsy, and I love that. I love that that is the last shot in the film. A broken character who realizes even after he pushes people away, he will still have a funeral and people will show up.
Yeah.
Because he
Where's
has a family.
Sean? Oh, he's up there. Never
Yep,
mind.
Cragland,
Okay.
right there. Yeah.
When he put on the fan,
Watching that? Yeah.
when he stabbed Drax with
Right.
the arrow, he
But no Infinity Stones, and at the end, it just kind of set up to like, now we're sort of in the present day. Groot's
we're
a
set up
team.
for this
Adam.
to Adam Warlock.
That's right, Adam Warlock, which is going to
Oh,
happen.
we didn't
Aisha,
have
aka
the-
her, she's going to create Adam. Yeah, we don't have the cocoon, and I think we
Draw
have
the
Aisha
cocoon,
somewhere.
please,
in there.
Hector. Hector, please
I
draw
don't-
me a cocoon.
All right, fine.
Next to Cragland.
Next, yes. I need a cocoon.
Sir Joel
accurate.
again with the 50 Swedish crowns. Mordo became a bad guy so fast that even Anakin Skywalker got whiplash. Shout out to Jay. Enjoy you on Nerd Alert. That's funny.
There we go.
I mean,
right.
but Mordo was always in Strange. Mordo always had that. Am I supposed to listen to the Ancient One?
Yeah.
Because it's like certain things you say. He's always saw it, and at that final time when he saw her use the Dark Forces, he was like, "So
Yep.
you trying to tell me
Yep.
you can do it and we can't? I got to deal with all this, no." And the way he took Benjamin Bratt's legs from out of
Oh, yeah.
he was like, "You don't deserve this magic."
We are now in Spider-Man Homecoming world, where we have some great characters. Aaron Davis is not in prison, but you know who is Adrian Toombs, a.k.a. The Vulture.
Yup.
And we've got Ned Leeds, Michelle MJ Jones.
Daddy issues.
That's
Yeah,
that
that is
issue.
all day
So
of
did
Spider-Man
Liz.
Homecoming right
Both
here.
of her
Spider-Man's
and
got
Liz.
uncle issues.
We get
Okay, daddy issues.
Tony and Pepper are back together by the end of the film. Happy Hogan is there as well.
They're getting engaged.
They're getting engaged. Spidey rejects being a member of the Avengers, and he does sort of prove that, you know what, he doesn't need the suit to be Spider-Man because he still does a Spider-Man thing on with his own shitty...
And he rejects
You know.
the Iron Spider suit.
That's
Yeah,
exactly.
he does.
Rejects that.
He
He
does.
just stays low to the ground. But that sets up to Infinity War. You know, he's going to be jumping in there because the first looks like section of that movie takes place in New York. I love this movie and I like it even more on rewatches. I think that the script is super smart, super funny. I really dig it. How'd you guys feel about Spider-Man: Homecoming when it came out? April.
Good. I mean, it's like a superhero John Hughes film.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good way
It
to
feels
put it.
That's the best way to put it.
It feels
Good
so
way to
high
put
school.
it.
That's
Yeah.
what they were shooting for, and it does. It feels high school more than any other Spider-Man movie, certainly. But even other like superhero-y or genre movies that say, "Oh, this is set in high school." Those kids are all like 20-year-olds, and they're all, you know. So
Right.
it feels
I
like
mean,
high school.
yeah, that's what happens.
It was the first Spider-Man we got who was an actual kid.
That's right.
Right.
No Tobey Maguire, who you like, ain't he like 38? And then Andrew Garfield, you're like, ain't he like 38?
Yep.
But then you got Tom Holland, and you were like, this is the kid we've been wanting to be that Spider-Man.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
because like he's inexperienced, he's a kid. He just like even in Civil War, we found out he's only had his power 6 months.
Yep.
So he's still just learning.
He's learning. He's coping with it himself at that point.
Yeah, because remember, he figures out, he says his spider sense, he doesn't even know what it is. He was like, that's why he wears the goggles. Things get so intense, I have to be able to focus myself.
Yeah.
And the end scene with Aunt May seeing him and just open the door.
Yep.
What the?
The thing that I really liked, Homecoming's a little, I don't want to say problematic, but there are things about it that I would have, there are things that they could have done I would have made me enjoy the movie more. But overall, I did like the fact that this was an opportunity to finally make Spider-Man young.
Yeah.
To me, you know, the Tobey Maguire one, he's straight out of college. Amazing Spider-Man, by the end of that first movie, it's kind of the same deal. I feel like now it's a great opportunity for them to really embrace the youthfulness of what Spider-Man can be and who he can be. And because they got a guy like Tom Holland, who I think at the time of making Civil War was like 18 or 19.
Yeah.
He has
I think he
opportunities.
just turned 20 last year.
Yeah, like he has opportunities to be Spider-Man for many years to come.
Can you imagine you're a teenager, and 9 times out of 10 as a kid, you've either played with or played as Spider-Man in your imagination.
Oh, absolutely.
And then you get cast.
This was
as
Spidey was his favorite character since he was a kid. And he talks about, he remembers that he went to go see in 2012 with his friends, like in middle school or high school, the first Avengers movie. And now he's in LA or London or whatever, and he's seeing himself
doing backflips
on billboards for Infinity War, and he's like, this is the craziest shit ever. Like, I love Tom Holland. I also love that this is what's so good about this franchise. They're planting seeds for the future. Aaron Davis said, I got a nephew who lives here. That's Miles Morales. So the question is, how many Spidey Peter Parker movies are we going to get? I wouldn't put it past him to give him 3, maybe even 5, and then either already introduce Miles by then or have the death of Peter Parker and then bring in Miles Morales.
I think there's opportunities for, and it's happened with a lot of the heroes up to this point, Captain America, Thor, Iron Man. It seems like the trend usually is 3 solo movies, 3 Avenger commitments.
Yeah.
Well, he's all, certain kids can't keep their mouth shut.
Yeah, he's bad at it.
Tom Holland is horrible.
He's bad.
He was like, he didn't think, I mean, we got Spider-Man Homecoming 2 and 3. I guess I wasn't supposed to tell y'all that. No, you weren't.
You weren't.
So, like, we know all your stakes. We know no matter what happens in Avengers 3,
you're going to be fine.
He's a safe character.
You're the safest character out of everybody.
I think him and T'Challa are going to be okay. Because Black Panther became such a hit, and that's its own sort of franchise. And I know Doctor Strange 2 is happening, kind of, but there's been no
official confirmation
on it.
I think Comic-Con is going to be a big
reveal. They probably have it, but that's Spider-Man Homecoming. Let's move on.
This is my favorite part of Spider-Man Homecoming. We cannot. This is my favorite villain in the MCU so far.
It's
this guy
because he was so down to earth.
Yeah,
he's number 2 for sure.
He's number 2 for you. He's so down to earth, but the way that John Watts shot him in the scene in the car was terrifying.
God. When he just sat back, you know what, Peter?
Fucking terrifying.
When he had the gun and everything.
Must have been scary in Washington, right?
It was scary in Washington.
Yeah.
You know, all that.
Oh, pal, Spider-Man saved you. Right.
He's like, let me tell you something. And it's,
you
got Peter in the back.
Yeah, he's just like, what is going on?
I shit myself.
This is classic Michael Keaton. He goes, Tony, you want to head inside? I got to give Peter the dad talk. And he crosses his eyes, and it's like,
My favorite part of that whole scene, though, was when he realizes that Peter is Spider-Man.
Because as he's talking,
the light turns green, and it's just like you see the light
reflection of the stoplight.
Reflection of the stoplight turn green in his face. The light turns green, and he's like, "Oh, I know this motherfucker. I know this kid, and I'm gonna get it to him mentally."
I do wish one thing, and I've been talking with a good friend of a lot of ours, Mark Andreyko. The last fight with Spider-Man and the Vulture, they cheated it being on the beach. And Draco makes up the greatest point ever. It should have been at the homecoming dance. Because that would have been the perfect way for Liz to find out who both of them are, who both her dad and Peter are. At that, because it's called Spider-Man Homecoming, so you think something culminates at this homecoming event. And
that's what I was expecting too.
Yeah, a little bit more.
The title definitely has a double meaning. Spider-Man's return to Marvel, obviously. But I do feel like the aspect of the homecoming was very underutilized.
Because that was the plot. That was the underlying plot. That was the driving force of the whole film. Who's going to the homecoming dance? Who's going to what? Even while Peter's trying to deal with being Spider-Man for the first time, which, by the way, we have to talk about his suit real quick. The first time he talks to his suit, he's like, well, I'm going to give you a name, Karen.
Great.
And then to find out, because I also, if I'm not mistaken, that's how you kind of know Tony might be dying in one of these 2 movies. Because that's how you're going to keep Robert Downey Jr. around another way. He becomes the voice.
The Jarvis.
He becomes the Jarvis. He's the
voice
of Peter.
Kind of hint to it, and there's a line that says, somebody's like, if you die, then it would have been on me or something like that. I think it was either Peter or Tony that said something along those lines, which kind of like hints towards Something is gonna happen in the future with Tony.
Yeah, they're gonna always be connected per se.
somehow.
I think Karen might be around a while, voiced by Jennifer Connelly, the real life wife of Paul Bettany.
Yeah.
And I thought she did a great job. I think it does make sense to have Tony eventually become an AI, maybe for a suit for Pepper or for Rhodey or for Riri Williams or for some new Iron Man style character to maybe take over.
Did you know Pepper is suiting up?
Is she?
Did you not see that? I think she did it with Stephen Colbert. And she was talking about the film, and he was like, "Did you happen to just dress up with a blue suit with ping pong balls in it and do your hand like this?"
Yeah.
She said, "Maybe."
Yeah, that's great.
So you're getting rescue in this.
We got barely a hint of that in Iron Man 3 when the suit goes and saves her in slow motion.
Yeah.
That scene was a
great
pain in the
That
ass
was your
to
let you know.
work on, but it was a great scene.
That was your let you know rescue was coming moment.
But we let's move over to Thor Ragnarok.
Oh my
Yes.
god.
Now, no Sif, which is a bummer because of scheduling conflicts or whatever, but they cut her out, and most of these characters die. We get Odin, we get the Warriors 3 die really quickly, but we're introduced to new characters when Thor goes up into space. We see Goldblum with the Grandmaster up here. Then we get, who else do we have? Who else did I put up?
Korg
I
and
completely
Meek.
forgot.
And
Thank you.
Valkyrie.
Korg up there,
Meek,
yep.
Valkyrie, huge characters that are on the good guy side over here.
You got Banner in it still because you got the Hulk.
We lose Hela, Odin's daughter. We lose Topaz. We also lose Surtur. Should have been up in the deceased category.
You son of a bitch.
I wrote him down. We just didn't magnetize him. I got him right here.
Yeah,
He's
right
here.
there.
That's
I'll pull him up.
Thor's opening line to Surtur.
Yeah, you son of a
is it really?
bitch. You're still alive.
Oh wait, or Thor doing this? You know
Thor.
what? I'm spinning. I don't even know. I don't even know I'm doing this. Hold on. I'm not even doing this. You know.
Thor, Odin's daughter. Yep. Here he is.
But it was. I like this movie because it was the movie that Chris Hemsworth has been wanting to do for the longest.
He talks about how this was the funnest set he's ever been on.
Yeah, because he was able to do. We know he wants to do comedy.
Yeah.
And for Thor to just have fun.
It's great. It's a good direction to take the Thor franchise in. We have to talk about
It needed
what a departure
something,
it was
Taika.
from the
He's the
huge
best. He's a
loss
treasure.
and the worst movie that I think Marvel has put out so far.
From Thor: The Dark World.
Yes, exactly.
Well, if you think about that ending where you find out that Loki's pretending to be Odin, and then coming into this film, it's very change of pace where it's so jokey compared to that sinister ending in Thor: Dark World.
They got Anthony Hopkins eating grapes, and when he sees Thor, he goes, "Oh shit!" And that's him playing Loki, playing Odin. It's great, and they make fun of that scene. I even had these characters, but we didn't magnetize them. We've got the Thor actor played by
His brother,
Liam Hemsworth.
Yeah.
We've got Loki actor played by, of course, Matt Damon.
which was the greatest
so
cameo.
funny.
And
Right
Sam,
there.
and Sam Neill.
Loki actor, right? We got Sam Neill, but right there. But it's just a great thing it like shits on Thor: The Dark World while still acknowledging like that was the best moment in that movie was when Loki died because he said I didn't do it for him, I did it for my brother. You know, like they loved each other, and it's great because the end of Thor: The Dark World was a cheat and sort of took away that moment with having Loki still be alive. So Thor Ragnarok comes in and goes, Thor's going to be pissed that Loki's still alive because of this moment. We're going to remind you of this moment. We're going to tell you where these characters were with a fake play entertaining Asgardians because they don't have television, they have theater. And then the Loki's revealed, and then it sets everything off. And I thought it was great. We even hear the Brian Tyler score from Thor: The Dark World in that scene, but then the rest of the movie doesn't use that because it's that cool synthy 80s, score as well. So
and you can't forget that they used Led Zeppelin.
Oh,
finally, to
beautiful
an awesome
effect.
way.
To beautiful effect.
And not just the trailer. Because I was like, please God, don't just use just trailers. Do this in the movie.
Please have this in the movie. Yeah.
But at the end of Thor: The Dark World, or rather Thor Ragnarok, the Asgardians escape, except we lost a bunch of them, but Heimdall's still there, Loki's there, Thor's there, Valkyrie's there, Korg, Meek.
Look at that graveyard. It's almost as big as the people who
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that graveyard. People,
I love it.
You're right. It's just
There's almost as many dead people as there
and
are.
after Infinity War, it'll be everyone. But
but the whole thing's just going to shift down to the
Thanos'
graveyard.
ship shows up. And it's funny because it's like they use it as a joke where Loki and Thor are like, what's the worst that could happen, sort of a thing. And then that ship shows up and the movie ends. So that you still are going out on a laugh and still like, man, what a great time, what a great movie.
And then when Infinity War starts,
everybody dies.
Half of the audience doesn't know that's Thanos' ship and they're about to die. Maybe the other half does know. But it still kind of works while they're still trying to pay service to the larger picture. And like we mentioned, Loki did palm the Tesseract, so he has it. And he's probably going to offer it up to Thanos or whatever in the Black Order when we get to that. So that's Thor Ragnarok. Then it
And
brings
he
us
lost
to
his eye.
yes.
Oh yeah.
Which
How about
He's embraced his all-fatherness.
Is
Very
OG.
significant.
And his hammer.
And Marvel kept that a secret so
Yeah.
well in the trailers. Like everything we saw in the scene with him not having an eye in the movie, he had 2 eyes. He was like, oh, y'all are amazing.
That already led people to, in the promotion for Infinity War, where Thanos is sucking on a stone or 2, being like, well, maybe he's got all of them, and they're just photoshopping stuff out, so we don't see. You know what I mean? Maybe they're just doing that Thor eyeball trick.
They're doing the 1-2 switcheroo on
We don't
us
know
over
what
here.
everybody has. Here's another weird fun fact too. When we get to the end of Doctor Strange, and there's a post-credit scene that involves Thor showing up and drinking that unlimited beer, Strange didn't have the Eye of Agamotto. When you watch the scene in Thor Ragnarok, he has it. So there are these weird, like, I don't know why they wouldn't have given it to him in the scene, but in any
they got
case,
their reasons.
then we get, guys, to Black Panther.
Yes, Lord.
We could talk about this one for the rest of the.
Yeah, I ain't got to talk about nothing
Yeah.
else.
These characters are introduced. We get Shuri, we get Nakia, we get Okoye, the rest of the Dora Milaje. I had some characters for Ramonda and some other characters, but they're not magnetized. M'Baku.
Shout out to Winston Duke, seeing him at 24-hour fitness yesterday working out.
There we go.
I was too fan-struck to be like, hey, fam, it's challenge day. Like, I just want to say that.
Then we have we've got Forrest Whitaker's character down here, Zuri. He is also killed in the film by Eric Killmonger Stevens,
My
a.k.a.
boy.
Njadaka.
Who also kills Claw, Ulysses Claw.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
he does.
Yes.
So Claw gets taken out as well, but one of, if not the best, villain in the MCU thus far. Michael B. Jordan absolutely crushed it, and Black Panther became a phenomenon. These are beloved characters, and they're still planting seeds because Shuri, as we know in the comic books, at one point she takes on the mantle of Black Panther. So they know how to bring out these great supporting casts while still planning for the future. And Black Panther, nothing to do with an Infinity Stone. It takes place right after Captain America Civil War. That we know. We might have the Soul Stone in Wakanda. We'll get to that. But that's Black Panther. I love this film. It's great on rewatches.
There is one more thing that they low-key have set up that only very few comic book fans know, and it's about Nakia.
Which is what?
Nakia becomes a villain named Malice. She actually turns on T'Challa.
That's right.
So
I don't think they're going to do that.
But that's why everybody was. If you look at the posters, the poses and everybody in the posters, look at how Nakia is looking, the way she looks. Her look is more menacing than anything else. Like everybody else has that look for the country, for Wakanda, things like that. But hers, it was those little bitty seeds. Yeah. It was those little bitty tidbits as they start to drop.
Well, another big thing is all the vibranium. They're going to start giving it to the world, which we see in Infinity War already from Cap's arm
shield,
piece.
that's right.
Shield,
That's
Bucky's new arm.
They step into the spotlight. Bucky's new arm. He's being helped out by super genius Shuri.
So sly.
What?
So sly.
What?
They stepped into the spotlight.
They stepped into
They did.
And Bucky was called by other like Wakandan kids like White Wolf.
White Wolf.
Which may be a story point, or it might just be a nickname, kind of throwaway comic book villain, comic book reference thing. Because in Black Panther comics, there's a whole separate character named White Wolf. So, but that's where Bucky is. And I also am glad that he wasn't in the film until the post-credit scene. I mean, we knew that he was going to be in it. We knew that Ulysses Claw was going to be in it, and Everett K. Ross. Essentially, the only white characters white actors in the whole of the movie. It's mostly black actors.
You mean
the only colonizers? exactly. But
I got you.
But yeah, that's Black Panther. It's on its way to make $1 billion
because it didn't need it.
Yeah.
You know, again, Ross is a Black Panther character.
Yes.
So it's understandable you have Ross in there. The reason
and
you
Claw
introduced
is one of the villains.
And Claw is his villain.
Yes.
You know, so those things, those two moments, those are understandable. Bucky at the end is understandable because you forget at the end of Civil War, that's where they put him at. That's how we found out officially the Black Panther film is coming. We're going to Wakanda. Yeah. So the way they did it well. Yeah. So it worked.
And in the same way that Spider-Man Homecoming was like, let's just do a Spider-Man movie. That's what Black Panther's doing. You know, Thor Ragnarok is different because it's the third Thor. So let's mix it up with the rest of the universe and let's do a little bit of world building. But those movies, you know, the world building is Wakanda to set that up, to establish it. The world building in Spider-Man Homecoming is like his supporting cast and his world and his relationships and stuff. So that's Black Panther. That brings us up to speed. Adam.
Yes.
How are we doing on time?
We are doing great. We've got about 12 minutes. But before we start talking about Infinity War, a couple questions from the chat room. The Annoying Ranter, thank you so much for the $5 tip. Do you guys know that a teenage Cassie Lang has been cast for Avengers 4? Could we see a flash forward of young Avengers in Avengers 4?
Flash forward of what? Young Avengers?
Yeah.
Maybe.
I don't know if we're going to see Young Avengers. I think we are going to get New Avengers.
Somebody did say that because an actress was cast as Cassie Lang. but it's not the
Okay.
little girl who played Cassie in
Yeah.
Ant-Man. It's not this this little.
This adorable
Could be more
little
time
girl.
travel.
Could be the time travel
stuff.
stuff. It's not this adorable little girl, but Cassie Lang in comic books goes on to become a character named Stature, one of the founding members of the Young Avengers.
yes.
So it's a question of, are they setting that up? Are they using Avengers 4 to, because she is, I think, is in Ant-Man and the Wasp, this
Yes.
actress, but she's not in
She's an Ant-Man. She's an
Avengers 4, apparently. She's not going to be in Avengers 4. Or like some other actress was cast as Cassie, older. So maybe it's time travel. Maybe they are setting up for stuff.
Do you think they're actually looking that far ahead right now? I mean,
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yep. They are. Yeah.
They have Phase 4 planned out. They just haven't announced anything.
Of course.
Because at the end of this movie, it'll say, at the end of Infinity War, it'll go, the Avengers will return in Infinity Gauntlet, or in Secret Wars, or in Secret
Fallen
Invasion.
Soldier.
So
Yeah.
I guess this is where we start talking about like where we see the future going, right? I mean, because we really have nowhere else to go. We have Thanos showing up that is going to close kind of like this first huge chapter of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is going to lead into maybe half of the mutants, half of the, because I want mutants to be in it, half of these superheroes being gone, maybe not. We don't know who's going to die. We don't know who's going to live. Do we have any theories as to who's going to live, who's going to die, and what the end of Infinity War will be?
So it's a rumor, it's a real tight rumor, and it may be true, we don't know, but the Fox Disney deal is done. It just hasn't been.
I believe it's done.
It just hasn't been announced.
Yeah.
Not because the whole they have to wait months, but because if they announce that the deal is done now, you're like, oh, people can pop up in these next two films. There is the potential for Silver Surfer, but also and I have to bring these up because like Dark Phoenix is the last Fox film to come out. If Dark Phoenix is the last, Fantastic Four and the X-Men are available to be rebooted. All you need is a phone call in Avengers 4. Who is it? Dr. Reed Richards. It's all you need. That acknowledges it. All you need is a sheathing of claws. Who dies though? We were talking about it. I don't think they'll do House of M.
I think it's too early to do House of M right now.
So, and also we see the Jarvis becoming human. We don't know if this is a vision itself. We don't know what it is.
Or assuming the human form.
Or assuming the human form because now he can change himself. Strange is around. Wilson will be around. Wong may die.
No. He's great.
Wong may
I
die.
can't imagine a world where Cap makes it through these two films.
I don't think he doesn't make it before. He for sure.
He's sharing training videos. He's like, I'm
So Nick Fury originally, Sam Jackson had what, eight films?
Yeah.
This will probably culminate them all.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's about time.
Captain Marvel.
So Captain, but we know that's in the
that's
past.
in the past.
That's in the past.
That's in the 90s.
So that's in the 90s. Maria Hill takes over what should become S.H.I.E.L.D. again.
Right.
Okay. Valkyrie probably will sit around because they may do the
Lady Liberators movie?
Liberators.
Hope they call it A-Force. That's my
That's what I
prediction.
want, A-Force. Heimdall, my theory is Heimdall is the Soul Stone.
Okay.
I still believe that to my heart.
Okay.
Heimdall is the Soul Stone.
We'll go ahead and set that up.
Yeah. Put those stones up at the top, Hector.
So
No,
what
we
do
gotta-
we
we gotta
see
put him
for
next to-
Jarvis with his Mind Stone? He's
Oh,
in
it's taking out his
trouble.
head.
They jack him. They jack him.
He'll have some power, but he'll have the phase ability. He'll have what looks like a remnant of it, but that's gone because it has to go in the gauntlet.
Yeah.
Loki's dead for sure.
Drew?
We know what Ant-Man and the Wasp is, so that keeps that.
Yeah, that keeps that.
I have a theory about the stones. I think that by the end of Infinity War or Avengers 4, that Thanos will be defeated somehow, probably maybe because of Nebula. Probably,
That's what a lot of people are thinking.
Nebula's going to sort of take him out, and I would love for Drax to be the one to stab him and kill him. Because
I think
that's what
Drax
Drax's
dies.
mission is.
I think Drax dies.
In that last stabbing, yeah.
I think the scene that you see with with Tony holding Star-Lord
You know
back,
what I would love?
I think that's Drax dying.
Drax lost his daughter, right?
Yep.
They could reveal that his daughter's still alive, and she eventually becomes the character Moondragon, who's another cosmic Avenger character that they could introduce that. And if Drax could somehow get the like, if he could know that his daughter's alive and then he kills Thanos and then he dies, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
But I do want him to have like a moment,
That moment of knowing.
of his daughter who's full grown, because we don't know how old Drax is.
Yeah.
You know, aging works different in space. She could be a full grown actress and be like, I'm the daughter of Drax the Destroyer. But when Thanos is defeated and the gauntlet is removed from him, I think that as a safekeeping for all the stones, one might go to T'Challa and Wakanda. One might go to Doctor Strange, to go back to the Eye of Agamotto. And then it's going to go back to Vision for him to safekeeping. So I feel like Vision might still come out alive in this if the stones kind of go back to Guardians by the end of the
But
the
historically,
saga, you know what I
in
mean?
the comics,
Yeah.
once the stones are separated from the gauntlet, they split in different directions. Or in the other version, in which in the comics, where both of those worlds are colliding, it's before the new Secret Wars.
Yeah.
The stones are actually destroyed.
Yeah.
But
they'll always come back.
They evaporate basically, and
but
so
they always come back.
There's many different ways that the Infinity Stones can go
Yeah.
after this movie, and we don't even know if the next one is actually going to be the fate of the Infinity Stones.
Right.
So at the end of this one, it could just be Thanos killing everybody.
I think we're going to see a hint, though, towards the Illuminati, which is the group
Absolutely,
of secret Marvel characters that was comprised
Strange,
of Iron Man, Doctor Strange,
Black Panther.
Now, we're not going to see Black Bolt from the crappy Inhumans TV show.
God, no.
Because he was on there, so was Reed Richards. We haven't seen him yet, and so was Professor X.
Right.
Those are like the other members of the Illuminati.
Illuminati.
I'd be okay if they did Illuminati without Black Bolt yet, because we're not ready for Black Bolt.
And again, that's how you start the inception of the X-Men.
Right.
But you have to do the X-Men first. You have to reestablish them in this universe. But also that begs the question, you introduce the X-Men. How do you explain mutants now?
Oh, that's easy.
Because Scarlet Witch, for those that don't know, because
Yeah.
Scarlet Witch and Pietro Maximoff are considered enhanced.
Miracles.
They're miracles.
Right.
So how do you explain what the reality stone?
I got you. I love
this shit.
Here we go.
I love this shit.
Here we go.
Break it down for us.
You got to have Magneto still tied to World War II. He's got to be a Holocaust survivor. I think that is so pivotal to that character. And people I know Joe Starr on Twitter was like, how do we make that work? I'm like, they've done it in the comics. Just make part of his mutant ability. He also ages very slowly. No big deal. Make him look like he's 45, maybe 50, like an actor.
Slight regeneration.
And recast him, slight regeneration, but he's a Holocaust survivor.
Right.
He meets Xavier maybe in the 80s, and they already built a secret school. The thing is in the MCU, mutants can be numbering in the dozens.
Yeah.
In the so small amount. You see what I'm
Okay,
saying?
so you don't have to
It's
wear
like
this-
they were
Right.
always
No,
like
it's
Professor
not a
X was
worldwide
like
phenomenon yet.
Remember Professor X and Magneto in a lot of versions of the story when they first meet each other, they're like the first mutants that they
ever know
meet.
of, yeah.
That they ever know of, and they meet like in Africa or whatever.
Right.
And Storm's a little girl running around, and so it's like they're barely coming out. I would say that around the year 2002, 2005, or even probably around there, a bunch of new mutants just start to be born. And then cut to 2020 or whenever like a new X-Men movie can come out, that's where you'll have a bunch of 16-year-old kids at Xavier's school. You get a new sort of younger iterations like Peter Parker age, like Shuri's age, of a lot of new mutant characters.
So do we get the original X-Men in those
I think you do a
characters?
combination of the originals and the sort of like giant size X-Men from the 70s because they were just more diverse. Now they've gone back into because the original X-Men were the 5 good-looking white kids.
Right.
We're like, we're oppressed. It's like we don't buy that.
You're not oppressed.
You're Angel. You can fold your wings. You're a good-looking rich guy. Like
Yeah.
it's tough to.
For a while, the X-Men were the new X-Men with Moonshadow, or not Moonshadow.
The New Mutants.
The New Mutants,
yeah.
the New
Right.
Mutants.
Yeah.
Were the X-Men, and the X-Men were the X-Force.
Exactly.
They didn't
So-
want anything to do with like Xavier and everything like that.
Yeah,
so there's
I think
a whole shift.
you pick and choose. I know that Storm is a fan favorite. It's like make her 16 years old, make her, or maybe even have her be one of the headmasters.
Because
of the school,
everybody is
whatever.
concerned. Because that's the thing. Another thing everybody wants, of course, with Black Panther being
Right.
successful,
Same
everybody wants the relationship.
Yeah, which
of
you
course,
can do
which we
that.
deserve to have
Yeah.
with another Storm, because not Alexander Ship. Please God no.
Yeah, that's okay. That's all right. It would be recasting everybody. Don't bring anybody over from
absolutely.
the X-Men,
Except for Ryan
movies,
Reynolds.
Except for Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool.
Oh, that's because he has to.
He breaks the fourth wall. I wish we made one of Deadpool just to put him here. Like,
Just draw Deadpool up there, please.
Okay, we'll do it.
With the gauntlet.
With
But
the
the
gauntlet,
other thing is like
Make sure you
to
tell him to do it accurately.
to explain. I'll do it accurately, but to explain how
John
the
like turn
X-Men.
around with his butt cheeks out.
It's
just
easy.
like,
Yeah,
tight,
I'll do it.
just
To,
tight butt
to
cheeks.
explain why the X-Men would show up in this already established world. Whatever happens in Avengers, Infinity War and Avengers 4 is so crazy. It shakes the foundations that like Xavier, Magneto, and certain characters, and even the kids can be the ones to push this. The kids are going, Charles, Professor
We can
Xavier,
help.
this is how we change the world. We have to come out as superheroes.
Okay.
We're the X-Men now. And he's like, X-Men? I didn't, you're students and I'm protecting you and I'm teaching you how to use your powers and we have to stay hidden. And the kids are the ones going, let us lead the way.
Yeah.
We're going to change gun reform. I mean, we're going to change how people think about. Do you see what I'm saying? You can make these kinds of connections about like the youth already growing up in this world.
Okay.
In the same way, there's kids that are going to go see this movie that like were born in 2008. It's like this is all they've ever known. We had to suffer through crappy superhero movies and
3 Captain America movies.
Yeah, they've got that.
The original ones.
The original. Yeah, exactly. So that's what you do for the X-Men is you just
don't forget the powers of the Infinity Stones individually. Like, who's to say that the Reality Stone, whoever's getting it, can't be just like, use it like the Terrigen Mist. Use it like the Inhumans are doing and change the reality for the people who can change. Maybe they get it.
Which I also hope we do that and we change that reality, that Terrigen Mist. Because again, the TV shows are affected by this. Because if you watch the Marvel heroes, the Netflix heroes, they always refer to the incident.
Right.
Which, as we know, was Avengers 1. And so, because the world seemingly doesn't know about everything else that happens. But if the reality but how does that becomes the confusing part.
It does.
Because
the stones are confusing, though.
They're within themselves. But even if no matter what you change in the film universe, because the Netflix universe is somewhat connected because of the references, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is connected, different things like that, it's like, okay, now these have to shift.
Yeah, I feel like it's easier for them to adapt, though. Because they're sort of like a season by season kind of like series, so they can adapt a little bit easier than having the whole universe shift in the movies. You know?
Well, yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go for it.
Because I was just thinking, because like Jessica Jones and Luke Cage aren't considered mutants.
Yes.
And Daredevil is just a blind ninja, and I am the immortal Iron Fist.
that he tells us 100 times.
All of that is also So what I'm saying is maybe use the Reality Stone as a kind of a last ditch thing. Like all the mutants are all the superheroes are dying. We need to wake up anybody that has this potential
latent powers,
and then maybe like a wish on the Reality Stone.
Because if you read old X-Men comics, because they were coming out in the 60s, they hinted at the fact that like the reason a bunch of mutants were born is because of the atomic age of the 50s.
Yes,
and
exactly.
like men and scientists that went to go work on like atomic bomb test sites in Nevada in the 50s came back home and had babies, and they're like, well, my kid's a mutant, because it was all fear of the atomic age
of the atom. That's why they called it.
The thing that could be the impetus for like a bunch of new births just happening could be some Reality Stone,
maybe
mucking or whatever. Bullshit.
So
there's Deadpool.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, can we talk about how good his Deadpool is?
Right?
Hector's an amazing artist.
Jesus Christ, that was quick.
I'm telling you, Hector's an amazing artist.
So we're closing out. We're closing out our 2 hours. But before we go,
I had to throw up the Defenders
questions.
and the Punisher up here, just because I like them, and that's basically it. Go questions.
Questions. Okay, so from Isaiah Aldridge. Thank you so much for the $9.99 tip. Even though Spider-Man Homecoming was the Spider-Man we needed, I feel it lacked the main components that make Spider-Man who he is. What would you guys like to see in the sequel?
Oh, well, that was a loaded question because I disagree with that.
I gotta do because I feel like because he's learning still.
Yeah.
It's Harry Potter 1 in an 8-picture Harry Potter series.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's the Sorcerer's Stone. It's like, are you gonna watch the Sorcerer's Stone and be like, that's not the Harry Potter from book 5 I know? It's like, let's wait because they're gonna give it some time. I would like to see him make connections with the Daily Bugle, J. Jonah Jameson.
He will.
I think
there's no way they can ignore that.
My way you can do that is you introduce a new black friend of his, Randy Robertson, who's his own age. Randy's dad, Robbie, works at the Daily Bugle, and Randy's dad can hook up Peter with like an internship or a freelance job. Because otherwise, why would a kid willingly walk into a newspaper, a dying medium, to be like, I'm a photographer, I got pictures. So like,
Peter can start his own blog.
Because Peter has a smartphone. Like you can't ignore the fact that the job he'd be jumping into is a dying medium at this point.
But
he's now like a YouTube creator.
He works for like BuzzFeed. He's in a BuzzFeed and he's like, I need a job, guys.
Peter like, yo, I got 400,000 subscribers. So what do you want?
I want to be an influencer.
400K on Instagram.
What is that? I don't know what that is.
Peter's like, I'm on my YouTube channel.
Next question from Katie Mans. Thank you so much for the $4.99. How do you think Peter Parker goes back to high school after being in space in Infinity War? How do you deal with that, or how do you handle that?
How did Tony deal with it in Iron Man 3? He had traumatic stress
PTSD. You
disorder.
just go back to school though.
I mean, you can go
For a kid.
For a kid, it's tough. And Hector, you touched on it a little bit with the gun reform thing. Like, those kids had to go back to school.
Yeah.
Peter's going to have to go back to school and
That's beautiful.
maybe deal with it. Like, he's going to have to face it head on, the fact that I've witnessed cosmic beings fighting each other, and now I have to go finish my math assignment.
And in Spider-Man: Homecoming, they touched on that. He goes and does the Civil War thing. He comes back and he's walking in the hallway. He's like, "I'm so done with high school right now." And the principal's like, "Peter, let me see you in my office." He's already dealing with it. That's the balance of Peter.
That's what makes Peter beautiful. I think that's what makes that character so spicy. I like to watch him because of things like that. Yeah.
Annalure DK asks, I enjoy the Marvel movies, but feel that many of the villains in the solo movies are just like the heroes with the same powers and or gear. So like the Thor movies, since he isn't fighting himself.
I mean, you could argue that. I could see that. But
that's thematically on purpose a lot of the time.
I feel like a lot of villains
is the mirror of Hulk.
Yellow Jacket is the mirror to
Ant-Man.
Right,
Ironmonger is the mirror to Iron Man. We have T'Challa is the mirror to Eric Killmonger in so many ways.
That's why I appreciate Doctor Strange, because it felt different and it wasn't just a big fight. Like, it was funny and comical.
It wasn't a big
fresh.
fight. But at the same time, it was sort of Doctor Strange dealing with himself.
Yes.
You know? It wasn't necessarily exactly with his disability now, with his mental state as like,
it's not about you.
Exactly. Exactly. It's not about him anymore.
Super Jax asks, what character is the funniest in Thor Ragnarok?
Korg.
Korg's the best.
Korg's great.
Korg's great.
So funny. Yeah. Although Grandmaster Goldblum has some great lines. That's so weird.
It's my birthday.
It's
him DJing with that robe.
It's Goldblum in space.
Right, that robe is in his closet right now. It's in his closet.
I will say this. I love this portrayal so much that I've been reading Marvel comics that featured the character the Grandmaster. Yeah. And I was reading a story and they were teasing that he was coming up, and I got so excited because in my brain I'm like, now I'm going to read him like he's Jeff Goldblum and he'll be funny, because otherwise he's just a whatever character. He just like shows up and like does this thing. But now that he's Goldblum, it's like, oh, this is every line I'm reading, even if it's normal, I'm like in his voice, I'm like, this is hilarious.
Jonathan Peck asked, over or under 50% that Korg or Valkyrie have kicked the bucket in Infinity War. I'm very curious about Valkyrie, whether or not she shows up.
Theory. Yeah. She's an Asgardian, right?
Yep.
And we'll count Korg and Meek in this as well.
Sure. Yeah.
I think that we know that Thor is going to be a major part of Infinity War. I think that in the beginning, Thanos is going to wipe the rest of them out, all the Asgardians, and all those innocent people: Heimdall, Valkyrie, Korg, Meek, Loki, everybody, and then maybe Thor torturing him, whatever. Right. And I think that Thor, because he lost an eye. And we saw that at the end of Thor Ragnarok, he has those flashbacks to Odin where he's like, who are you the god of again? And Hel is asking him, who are you the god of again? And he shows up. I think that that's Thor tapping into the Odin force. The power that Odin had, that where he needs to go into the Odin sleep. But like, he's the Allfather, right? He's the god of gods. Thor, because he's Odin's son, is basically inherited that, but he still hasn't like tapped into it yet.
Look at the eye patches. That's all foreshadowing.
And I think that at the end of whatever this Infinity War, Avengers 4 saga is going to be, if they're going to give Thor a fourth movie, the way you do it is he will tap into the Odin force and resurrect all the Asgardians. Maybe put them into bodies of people on Earth that happened in the comic books. Maybe do what Odin hinted at in Ragnarok, where they were in Norway, and he's like, look at this. This could be home. This is beautiful. Move Asgard, because Asgard's destroyed now. Right. It's not a place. It's a people. Move Asgard to Norway to bring it closer to Earth.
And that's how you get to Norwegian comics.
Blah, blah, blah. That's how you get to all that stuff. And another great story point, Thor can resurrect Loki, but as a 13-year-old kid.
Yep.
Because it happened in the comics. Or Lady Loki. But a 13-year-old kid Loki was Thor's effort to be like, I believe there's good in my brother. We're gonna raise him right. We're all gonna raise him better, and he'll be a 13-year-old kid. And then he became part of the Young Avengers, and then so on and so forth.
Right.
I'm telling you, they're planting these seeds. They can do that. And then Sif could show up.
Of course.
With Better Ray Bill, because Sif was like, I was in space looking for you, Thor. Where were you? Asgard's destroyed. So they could always bring her back. But like, I think that even if all the Asgardians die, Thor has the power to like resurrect everybody to keep the story going.
He's going to tap into the Odin force for sure.
Yeah.
All that to say, you think Valkyrie will become Thor?
Maybe. I want that Lady Liberators movie. I want the Lady
Liberators first.
Scarlet Witch, Black Widow, everybody.
We'll bring in Frog Thor and Beta Ray Bill to hold this over.
Jane Foster, if you, I think, pitched it to Natalie Portman with like, we have a female director, a female screenwriter, and please come back and be Dr. Jane Foster. We have all the female characters, and maybe we'll even tease that you get your own hammer and become like Thor in some iteration later. That's the way you bring back Natalie Portman, who was pissed that Patty Jenkins didn't direct Thor: The Dark World, and then she wanted out, so then they had her and Thor break up. That's fine, but you can still bring this character back and like do things with astrophysicist Jane Foster. She's a great actress.
Do we have one more?
Yeah, Michael Tolentino asks, do you think the next level villain on the Do you think the next level villain on the level of Thanos will be teased at the end of Avengers 4, such as Galactus or Doctor Doom?
Not yet. I don't think so.
Nope.
I don't think we're going to see the next big villain because I feel like the next big conflict will be from within. Not like Civil War, but like a big
Invasion.
event. Yeah, like Secret
The
Invasion.
Skrulls are the next one.
Skrulls.
So the Skrulls are the next one already set. So
Right, and that's that's what we're assuming is
Yes.
that the reason for Captain Marvel is to
Yes.
show us that even before Thanos came along,
There was
the
always a
Skrulls
threat
were already on
this
Earth.
Yeah.
And that's how what's his name, Nick Fury lost an eye because that's the last time he
90s.
trusted somebody who was a shapeshifter
Yeah.
who in the middle of the night came and just jacked his eye out.
Last time I trusted someone, I lost an eye.
Yep.
That's right. That's right.
Boom.
I think
Done.
you're right. I think we might.
and I think Black Widow's a Skrull.
Oh yeah, it's
this
very
whole
possible.
time, or since when?
This whole
when
time.
would the switch
This whole
happen?
time.
This whole
This
time.
This whole time.
No.
Yeah.
She's gonna get her own movie though. Oh, you think her
That's
own
not
movie
official.
will be Scarlett Johansson showing up with red hair in a spaceship, being like, "I was kept prisoner.
Yep.
What
Yeah.
the fuck's going
Yeah,
on?" And
exactly.
everyone's
That's
like
why
looking
she
at.
has. That's why she has blonde hair now. That's why she's wearing green. This isn't the same.
We can't trust those ladies that change their hair
No,
color all
hell
the
no.
time.
That's
They're
foreshadowing.
sneaky.
Foreshadowing. You change your hair,
dangerous.
woman. I don't trust
I don't
you.
trust
Let's
you
talk
at all.
about it.
What are
Who
you
else
hiding?
could potentially be a Skrull? Let's talk about
Oh,
it.
I
Shape-shifting.
like this,
I
Tom.
mean, Black Widow, Jay. That's not. You're not wrong. That's a good.
I mean, that's not a
Someone
stretch.
threw out Hawkeye.
Hawkeye
Hawkeye
could be a
could-
Skrull.
See,
Does that mean
Tony
his
could
family
be.
too?
What
You
if
think Tony?
Tony could be,
No,
never
he's
know.
the
I
I don't
heart.
think
Yeah,
Tony.
he's harder.
I don't think Tony
Yeah.
could be a Skrull.
Okay.
I think it's going to be a lot of side characters that are the Skrulls.
General Ross could be a Skrull.
General Ross could be a Skrull. I think the people who could get in and kind of influence.
Kingpin.
Yes.
No.
No. Wait. No. Not Kingpin. Who else could be
Pepper
a Skrull out
Potts.
there?
Maybe Pepper. But
Or
I would,
Happy Hogan.
And
I
Happy
think
Hogan,
that
there
any
you
of these
go.
characters in a Skrull-centric movie could also be switched halfway through the movie.
Yeah,
Would be
of
cool.
course.
Like if Pepper ends up being a Skrull, but then it's like, but then the real Pepper is, we got to go save her, or whatever. Hank
Hey,
Pym
didn't
was
Phil
famously.
Coulson come back to life?
Yes, that happened.
Maybe he came back as a
So this,
Skrull.
this is a lot. This is a lot to think about.
That's happened in the comic books, and Skrulls that have taken the shape of characters that have since died show up, and they think they're the character. They're brainwashed, and their conditioning is kind of like the Winter Soldier. They don't even know they're a Skrull, and that's been an interesting story point where they're like, "Fuck, am I a superhero? Am I a Skrull? What's my mission?"
Yep.
That's
Hank Pym was famously a Skrull in the comic books.
Yep. I mean, Cap was a Skrull in Secret Wars.
Yes,
like,
he was.
I don't think they would go so far as to tell us that Cap has been a Skrull the whole time.
Yeah, because that would kill the arc that they were
Exactly.
building within the
that
book.
would diminish everything that came before, and
As
you cannot
long
do that.
as it's not Luis, I'm fine with anybody being a Skrull.
What if it is? Hector?
No,
Will you boycott? No. Will you boycott?
What if Luis gives us the ultimate recap of everything that's happened and he changes shape?
Whoa! That would be great.
I don't like that.
All right, last question here. In Spider-Man: Homecoming, Happy is running an inventory list where he mentions Captain's remodeled shield. What if this shield is in a shot in Infinity War where it's atop Steve Rogers' body at his funeral and Tony is beside him?
Goddamn.
Oh,
Well, we're gonna get some heartbreaking shit, you guys.
Oh, they already said you're gonna be hurt. They already said you're gonna be hurt.
We are going to be hurting.
We got that great hint of Cap's new shield, which is post Civil War, which means that Tony, I think, already kind of forget. Like there's already this level of Tony Stark knowing that Cap needs to be Cap.
Yeah.
So he's already developing his new shield. That's what Happy Hogan says in Spider-Man: Homecoming. He also mentions Thor's magic belt, which I don't think we're going to see. I think that was just a joke. That one was just a joke. But Cap's new shield, we might see that.
Yeah.
And it might be that he doesn't give it to Steve, but instead he gives it to
Bucky
or Sam,
as
the new Cap. That could happen too.
All right.
Can we go through everybody name their favorite character? Adam, favorite character.
Favorite
You gotta pick
character.
one.
Favorite
You gotta pick
character.
one.
Currently, my favorite character, I would say, I'm a sucker for the Boy Scouts, Captain America.
Okay. Augie?
Eric Killmonger.
Nicely done.
Eric Killmonger is my favorite character in this entire
Jay.
franchise.
Black Panther? T'Challa?
Eric Killmonger.
Eric Killmonger. Okay. April.
Groot.
Groot. In every iteration of Groot. Okay. Excellent.
Hector.
I think I gotta go, because I just rewatched Homecoming, I'm gonna go Peter Parker.
Of
I
course.
love
It's a
Peter.
boy.
I love
Of course, that's
Peter's
your boy.
He's my boy. And they did him right.
He's
and,
the reason Hector is Hector.
That's right.
Oh, man. That's real nice.
Hector's gonna put a suit on after this, y'all. Just gonna swing
Oh
down.
no, Hector's he should be working on a Spider-Man suit.
Pretty good. Only a couple mistakes. We missed a couple characters. Our bad. We couldn't fit everybody on here. I think we did a pretty fucking impressive job.
Yeah, actually.
240
thanks.
something characters.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh, we covered the whole thing and some TV
No,
show
well,
stuff.
I mean, we forgot all the Netflix stuff.
I mean, they're there to represent
we
that,
have
but yeah, we did
more
forget.
stuff, but
There's
For the sake of
This is
time.
just.
We've got the shitty Inhumans up here.
Don't you put that on the board.
Don't put
you
this.
dare.
No?
Don't you dare. Don't you
Let's
dare
just
put
make
that
it
on
a
that
fucking
board.
mess up here and put all the rest of the characters up.
We got Foggy Nelson here.
But we're super excited.
Stick is
We're
deceased.
going to be seeing Infinity War on Tuesday morning.
As am I.
Yeah,
I
you're
see
going.
Tuesday at 7.
I think we're all going Tuesday morning except for Augie. Augie's seeing it Tuesday night.
Yeah.
Can't wait to go see it. Go talk about it. We'll do a non-spoiler review. It'll be myself, Hector, Matt, and Cameron. And then we'll do a spoiler review probably on Thursday or Friday after we see it for the second time. Oh, God damn it. I'm so excited for this movie. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. But guys, thank you so much for watching. We had quite a few people watching us for these past 2 hours.
That's awesome.
Hope you guys enjoyed the crazy board. It was a lot of fun putting all this craziness together, going through all these movies and everything that's happened in the MCU so far. We'll see how it all culminates next week. But before we go, April and Jay, where can everybody find you guys on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram at April13Dawn. I actually just did a Marvel watch along of all the films.
Are you in the middle of them or are you done?
I have 2 left to post, but I'm almost there. So you can check it out on my YouTube channel.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram. It's 1,100 of you guys watching. Please, all of y'all, just follow me at Mr. J Washington, MrJaywashington. I've just started recently doing my YouTube, doing trailer reactions, and I'm about to start doing a few reviews. So that's youtube.com, JWashington80, 80.
What about my boys over there?
And the Truck Cycle Podcast.
You can find me trying to finish the rest of this board at L_Santo
We did it, y'all. And I'm at Hector Is Funny. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all the support. MCU, here we go. We're gonna go see it. Have a good time.
We're gonna be like this till Tuesday, so.
Yeah.
Thanks again for coming, guys.
Thanks for having me.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week. All you hyperheroes, and make sure you guys stick around for our reviews of Infinity War. Bye.
Bye.